welcome to the MinnMax Show. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Suriel Vasquez.
Hello.
Wow.
Hey, he's back.
Hey, let's talk all about it. Jeff Markiafava.
Was never gone. So.
That's true. Hey, we have a lot to cover on this week's episode of the MinnMax Show. We're talking about Last of Us Part 2. Did you guys hear the big news about PAX East?
No, what's going on?
Jeff, don't spit your drink out. Sony canceled their appearance at all of PAX. So all of the Sony demos are just not happening. They're not showing Last of Us Part 2. They had the Final Fantasy VII demo. I guess it's all out the window because the coronavirus. Isn't that bold? So many people were going and excited to play that Last of Us Part 2 demo.
Yeah.
Nothing.
They made a big deal about that, didn't they?
I also don't know that there are that many reported cases in the U.S. yet, right?
It's changing every day is what they said in their official statement and stuff. But anyways, we're here to help alleviate that by unpacking everything that we know about The Last of Us Part 2 and then also speculating on what we think will be happening in the plot of The Last of Us Part 2.
Yeah, you can hold a PS4 controller in your hand and just press buttons while we talk. And
that's right.
Pretty close.
And
coronavirus confirmed as the disease that caused all of the apocalypse.
It's very confusing. Right. Also, do you remember the last release date for Last of Us Part 2? It was February 21st. So we were basically
right on the money.
This should have been when we were playing it in this era. So let's dive in. And then we'll talk a little bit about Escape from Tarkov. Jeff Markiafava, you're an expert at this point.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Some indie games you've been playing on Game Pass. Maybe a little Bleeding Edge in there. And then back half of the show, we have some wonderful comments and questions and words of wisdom that people sent in to the Minnbox, as it's so proudly named now on Patreon. So please check that out. Suriel, let's see. What'd you miss? We recorded the final discussion for the Deepest Dive. Mm-hmm. How angry are you, scale of 1 out of 10, that we recorded that without you?
Well, I haven't finished it, so not super angry at this point, but I would have liked. There are a couple things I would have liked to talk about that maybe I shouldn't spoil, since this is not a place where we spoil things.
That's right.
But
unless it's Last of Us Part 1, which, by the way, we probably will spoil in this discussion.
As it's always been called, right? The Last of Us Part 1.
That's right.
But I still have been enjoying that game. I'm still wrapping up some of the side quests at the end.
I hope that there will be a place for you to talk about these things, Suriel, without teasing too much in the future.
It won't be at MinnMax, but I hope we hope you find a place.
I will talk about it outside on my own.
Go to your buddy IGN. Get out of here. Let's see. We're missing Kyle. He is traveling, so he's out. So it's just the love between the three of us. Other things. Oh, we hung up for the video viewers on YouTube. There's a Pikachu skateboard that our friends at the Pokemon Company sent our way. And it's nice that they decorated our set for us. We appreciate it. They said, let everybody know it's available on the PokemonCenter.com.
Launch your own quick attack with this skateboard.
That's right. I do think it looks sweet, though. Other things for setting the table here is this is not the next official MinnMax community meetup, but at VGMCon in Minneapolis. If you're in Minnesota or in the Twin Cities, VGMCon is going to be the weekend of March 6th. And on Saturday, March 7th at 9 p.m., MinnMax will have a panel. We'll be doing game trivia with a bunch of folks there. So VGMCon is like, it used to be called Gamers Rhapsody. It's all about celebrating video game music.
Okay. Do I have to know about video game music in order to go there?
I don't think they quiz you at the door. I think you should be fine.
They quiz you in the bathroom, guy? So if you want to go pee.
Okay, so as long as I don't pee.
That's right.
Which I'm super good at.
They'll say ba-da-ba-ba-da, and then you have to finish whatever song they're saying.
P flat. Anyways.
You have to pee on the right key?
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Great tangent. So VGMCon, please come on down. There is a pass. It's not free. You can look that up. There's like a day ticket that's a little bit cheaper, so you can check that out. But VGMCon in Minneapolis, come play some game trivia with us. And if you know our past, you probably have a good idea of what type of game trivia might be coming. But also, there'll be some new twists and favorites in there, and we're going to try and record it and release that audio for Patreon supporters as well. So please keep that in mind. Also, if you're listening to this or watching this and you're like, why aren't they talking about Animal Crossing? There's a Nintendo Direct, but by the time we're recording this, we couldn't slot it in. So we will have on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/MinnMax Show. Please support it and subscribe to it however you want. But I'll have my live reactions. On Thursday morning, I'll sit down here in a cold, dark basement and talk about how cute Isabella is and all that fun stuff.
Gonna be brrr.
That's right. Suriel Vasquez.
That's me.
You just got back from the trip of a lifetime.
Yes.
Okay. Where all did you go?
My one trip. I went to, well, it was a weird scheduling thing because I initially booked a trip to Japan last year. Back in July,
wow.
So you can make the timeline of when I would have wanted to have that trip go, and the situation that led around it. But then I realized, okay, my cousin has a wedding, so I have to. That is like the week before that, so I basically went from here to Mexico to Chicago for a day and to Japan. And then back here.
And then in Japan, it was Tokyo, Osaka.
Nagoya, Shizuoka, Himeji, and a quick stop in Kyoto, and then back to Tokyo.
Okay, rank the Japanese cities. Let's go.
I think Osaka might be my number one.
Osaka number one?
I
really?
think it's mostly on this trip specifically because I think, A, we only spent like 2 days in Tokyo, and B, I've already been to Tokyo a few times, so there wasn't as much like, I already know how this city is, but like the Dotonbori Street in Osaka, I think was particularly
That's
just
like a shopping thing?
Right. That's like this weird like things with all these restaurants with a bunch of like really wacky exteriors. Like one of them has a giant crab outside that
okay,
animates.
the outside one. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and then one of them just has like this weird face of a guy who's just kind of like, ugh, but he's like a chef or something. I don't know. So that place is really fun. It has its own kind of like, not quite Akihabara, but it's like a anime kind of street.
Yeah.
And then I think probably Tokyo. And then Shizuoka, which is like sort of a more rural area. It's a little closer to Minneapolis than like if Tokyo and Osaka are like, let's say New York and San Francisco. I think this is a little closer to Minneapolis where there's more. There's a lot of rural areas, but there is also like a concentration of like people in the center, and that was really fun. Because we stayed in like this Airbnb that had like this really scenic mountain view that was really nice to see. With like nice. In the early morning, you could see like here's this giant mountain, here's like the bed of fog kind of rolling through it, which is really awesome. Then Kyoto we didn't stop in too quickly, so I can't really rank. Not applicable because all I did was go to the Inari Shrine, which is just right outside of like the Inari station. So we kind of just stopped there, did a quick thing, and then.
Did you hike around that area much then, or just go up to the shrine?
We hiked basically up to the top of the Inari Shrine, but we didn't spend too much time in Kyoto otherwise.
And that shrine is notable because video game history. That's the gates, the orange gates. That was the inspiration for Star Fox, for flying through the gates.
Oh, really?
As Miyamoto was walking that and thought, it'd be fun to fly one of those.
Yeah, there's a guy yelling at everyone to use the boost to get through also. So,
but it was in Japanese, so it didn't sound
so
as
I didn't know what he was talking about. You
didn't swing by Nintendo's headquarters or anything?
No, because I mean, like I said, it was basically on our way, right? Sure. So we didn't have time to do anything but basically scale that mountain and then come back down. So.
Yeah.
Didn't have time to do anything but scale the mountain.
Scale the little mountain.
Wow.
You had, I think it was a tweet where you said something about it's this beautiful Japanese landscape, and you said, this is a nice place for me to look at my phone. And it chilled me to my core. Did you feel enlightened from this trip? Do you feel like it did the soul good, or were you just going to beautiful places and looking at your phone?
It was really, for one, that was obviously jokes. I basically only looked at Twitter like once a day, which was nice in my hotel room. And so like, I mean, also I guess on the trains and whatever, because
story's falling apart.
But yeah, it was really nice to get out and just like kind of have because most of the time when I went to Japan, it was for a work trip, so it was usually like hey, well, we're here, but here are some nice things to look at on the way, right? Like if you want to do the touristy stuff, you're gonna have to squeeze it in between appointments, basically, right? So this was just like a week and a half basically of just doing whatever we wanted in these cities, which is really nice to see because I like just walking around and seeing, not just like the touristy areas, but also like where people live, like going to neighborhoods and stuff, and that was really fun. But yeah, it was a nice time to kind of reflect and think about kind of what I want to do next and things like that. And
did you come to any grand conclusions you want to share?
Mount Fuji's really big. It's a big mountain.
And that's what you want to do next is scale Mount Fuji?
That's right.
My God. I heard from a little bird that you got lunch with Mark McDonald, friend of the show from 8-4.
Oh, yeah. We went and he took me to, I guess we were going to go to a sushi place, but that sushi place was closed. So we went to a Brazilian place, which I actually really liked because they basically have these giant like sausage subs basically that were really good. And there was like a really nice salad that was supposed to accentuate those sandwiches really well. So
nice.
It was fun.
They're always so inviting. Mark McDonald's is the nicest guy.
Yeah.
I think he's just secretly a little homesick. So if any of Americans are coming over to Japan, it's like, get on over here. Let's say hi. That's nice. Any insight from him? Any wise words you want to share from him?
You should get the salad at that Brazilian
place.
Get the
salad at the Brazilian place. Great.
Right.
What are these? These are gifts?
Yeah, those are gotcha stuff.
Oh,
gotcha things. I actually don't remember what is in that one. So
these aren't related for us in particular. It's just random
stuff.
I
basically I go in, I buy the gotcha first, and then assign it to people.
Okay.
So I think Jeff, I think yours is Star Wars related.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what yours is.
Is this the announcer from Dragon Ball, or just some big squatty guy?
Yeah. Yours looks like
some guy with a pompadour. Yeah.
Oh, he's fun. Oh, thanks, Suriel. Wow, this really speaks to me.
Oh, well, I'm glad it speaks to you.
Yeah, we'll put it on the set.
I got an evil R2D2.
Fantastic.
like the
which is how I've always described you, as an evil R2D2.
Makes sense.
Love it.
Thanks,
man. Hey, you know what that reminds me of? The Last of Us Part 2.
That's right.
That's right.
Japan's #1 game. The Last of Us Part 2.
The game that was delayed. Oh my God! It drives around.
He actually.
That is fun.
Just like in the movie.
I'll be damned. Anyways, Last of Us Part 2, releasing May 29th, 2020. I went back, watched every video they've released, every panel, read a ton of interviews, just absorbed everything about Last of Us Part 2. And I really had a moment of like, oh yeah, I am looking forward to this a lot. Like, it's like, I feel like I know it's going to be an emotional investment and I'm too much of a little baby and I just want my baby games. And so I was like, I'll play it. I'm looking forward to like the production, but then going through it and just like soaking in that world a little bit more, watching all the videos, reading all the interviews, like, you know what? I think this is going to be a hell of an experience. You know what? I think the internet might be right by and large. How are you guys doing hype levels wise for Last of Us Part 2?
I do want to play it. I think it's always I've said my piece about Naughty Dog games before, but I think I usually do end up liking them a lot. It's just
what's your piece?
Mostly that I think they're kind of as a whole overrated, but I realize that it's because like. I don't think they're like 10s or like I don't think they're usually like wow these masterpieces of like gaming and storytelling or whatever, but I usually like when one of them comes out I like really enjoy it. And so I'm looking forward to that one in that sense that it's like, oh yeah, those games are going to be good. Like that Last of Us Part 2 is probably going to make me cry, maybe. Like there's a good chance that it will.
Yeah.
And like the writing and stuff that they do in those cutscenes is like top notch. I guess they haven't and they talk a little bit about how they're gonna make the stealth parts of it a little bit more nuanced, a little bit more elaborate. But I guess like
different skill trees and stuff like that.
Yeah. But like for me, the gameplay in those games has always been the thing that I kind of just get through. So I'm curious to see if they can actually make like that system compelling enough to me as someone who's usually not interested in playing on like Naughty Dog games.
Yeah, it's interesting that some of their messaging is, oh, Ellie's more nimble this time around, can climb more, stuff like that. You can go prone, which changes more than you'd think as they communicate.
Well, especially it's because of like they're trying to lean more into stealth and less in the like, well, from what we've seen, less about the monsters and clickers and stuff like that, and more about like most of what we've seen has been against other people. Like
which would be fair for the first one. Like they focused on the people more than you remember through the marketing campaign. Yeah. They would save it. It was at the very beginning and then the very ending where they kind of hit the infected a little bit more and stuff. But man, I forgot about that. They revealed a while ago, and like Polygon had an article about it, that every enemy in that game has a name. Remember that weird thing? And then beyond that every enemy has a heartbeat, including like Ellie has a heartbeat, which affects the way she breathes. So if she's running for a while, she'll breathe differently. If you're attacking enemies, not only will they shout out each other's names, which is very fun and very specific, but then also like their breathing patterns will change based on their heart rate. I cannot wait to see how this thing runs on a base PS4. Yeah. I'm sure they're going to be on top of it, but the amount of stuff under the hood that's happening with Last of Us Part 2, it's really going to be pushing that system.
And I mean, that's exactly what they did with the PS3 too, right? With the first game. Like they managed to figure out how to squeeze every drop of power out of those systems.
Did you ever watch the Area 5 documentary called Grounded about the making of The Last of Us? On that particular note, it's really fascinating, which is a system I've never seen despite visiting so many studios, but they showed like on this guy's computer, like, okay, we have Last of Us booted up here, and we can actually see like what's draining the memory, like what is taking up the resources here and what we have to trim back on. It's just a crazy like graph just showing like how peaked everything was at all times. And just like, okay, we can remove a couple polygons here to try and squeeze it in, but it's bonkers.
Yeah. And I should say that I love Naughty Dog games, and The Last of Us was my favorite. And for all the reasons that Suriel didn't, the things that Suriel didn't like about it, I still loved it. I loved the stealth gameplay. I have always now his ass is just facing me.
The toy for the audio listener.
Yeah, the shooting mechanics in the Uncharted series have been my least favorite parts of those games, just because you get into a lot of shootouts with, enemies that can take a lot of hits. I always put it down on easy level when I play Uncharted games, but I loved the kind of melee stealth focus of The Last of Us. So I'm not super hyped, but it's not because it's because I loved The Last of Us so much, and I especially loved the story, and the story had such a good finality to it that I am one of those people in the camp that thinks I didn't need a sequel, but I'm sure that when I play it, I'm going to be excited and I'm going to love it as well.
I guess at this point we have to trust Neil Druckmann that he's confident enough, which is one of those weird details. Like, people forget that he was writing that Last of Us movie. Like, the Uncharted movie was kind of out of Naughty Dog's hands, but Neil Druckmann was like writing that Last of Us movie script while they were kind of in pre-production for Last of Us Part 2. So he's been soaking in this world for so long. Obviously, his partner in crime, the game director, Bruce Straley, left a couple years ago from Naughty Dog, which is huge. I mean, he was a huge part when it comes to the gameplay in particular for The Last of Us Part 1, let alone, other Naughty Dog games in the past and stuff. And so other directors have moved up from different aspects of Naughty Dog and stuff like that. But, okay, the story itself. It's that thing of, well, I guess we'll just have to trust Neil Druckmann that this story is worth telling. And he had an interesting interview here for The Telegraph, where he talks about how there were several ideas that he really wanted to get across with Last of Us Part 2 that could only be told in video games, which has me more intrigued than maybe anything else that I've seen for this. It's like, okay, if somebody says, I've cracked storytelling in video games, there's an interesting twist that can only be done in this specific medium, I'm so much more compelled.
Right.
So he was talking about, if you look at the first game, I wouldn't have been able to tell you that you played as Ellie. What does that mean to play the whole story as this one character, Ellie's surrogate father figure Joel, and then have this moment of subversion where the roles flip? Likewise, there are multiple things that happen in this game that are totally unique to our medium that really speak to this idea of complexity of the cycle of violence. Multiple things that can only be done in this medium to speak to the complexity. And so it seems like where the bulk of the internet is thinking, I think correctly, is that the game is going to focus a lot on Anna, who is Ellie's mom, who is dead during the time of Last of Us. So then the question becomes, is she going to be a playable component? I would lean no, but the fact that he's talking about like the power of interactivity and all this stuff, I don't want to get my hypes up because I love like that dual train, the dual line of stories. Like but I got so excited for Metal Gear Solid 3, thinking that it was going to be following Solid Snake and Big Boss, and you'd be jumping back and forth. And so I'm trying to set my expectations, because if it is that mother-daughter story and you're like jumping back and forth between those timelines, I think that could be so cool.
Yeah,
because that one trailer where that people were kind of pointing out as being a little bit too violent out of context, is that supposed to be part of her storyline? Did they actually provide context for that scene?
No, it's really mysterious. So what that is like, okay, there is Emily, who's the leader of this religious group, Yara and Lev, who are coming in, and then it's like, okay, I guess we have to join forces with this other woman who is being hung, and then they save her. And that person, it seems like, is played by Laura Bailey, and they have not revealed who that is or what her name is. But it seems like out of anybody, that would be Ellie's mom then. Yeah. And so, but they also like don't explain, and Neil is very particular too when describing this. Like, we don't want to reveal what's going on in that scene or when it's taking place. So it's like, okay, is that the beginning of the game then, setting the path forward?
Yeah,
for
and
Anna?
I was always skeptical of. I thought that was a bad way to introduce that, the sequel, because it was so out of context. It was just all of this violence that didn't have any kind of rationale behind it, and we didn't know the characters, so there wasn't any kind of emotional investment for us. But I have always suspected that Naughty Dog is a smart enough developer and storytellers that scene will have more context that makes it important within the actual story. And you won't when that comes up in the actual story, we won't just be, well, who are these characters? This means nothing to me. Like it will have weight to it in a way that it didn't as just in the first introductory look at The Last of Us 2.
Well, they had shown the trailer at E3 2016 before that. Or, God, it was definitely in 2016. But that was the one where it was Ellie playing the guitar and then Joel walks in and all that stuff. But this was, a whole new look at whole new characters. What are they talking about? Calling each other's apostates. Seems like it's a group called the Seraphites, which are a religious group, something like that. And they have to join forces, yada, yada, yada.
The other thing that quote makes me think, though, as a possibility is that maybe we're going to be spending time with whoever the enemies are, playing as the enemies, because you talk about, like the shifting perspectives that only video games can do and kind of taking another look at the cycle of violence. I wonder if that will play into it as well.
I could definitely see that too. And so even from the first trailer, they've been hinting and just flat out saying, okay, this game is all about hate. First one was about love. This is about hate. It's about Ellie wanting revenge. From the first trailer on, she's talking about, like, I'm going to go in there and kill every last one of them. Oh, easy there, Ellie, easy. We know she eventually is making her way from Jackson, Wyoming, all the way to Seattle, where she ends up fighting a group called the WLF. That's like the demo that's in Seattle, where the dogs are chasing her and all that stuff. But the question is, what is bringing her there? What is this group? And then in the last trailer, it seemed like a very strong suggestion that her love interest, Dina, maybe gets killed. Like, the trailer was cut in a way that so heavily implied it, and that's what sets her on this mission of revenge, that I'm skeptical of it. Because they're very smart. And so it's like, okay, maybe this is actually Tommy getting killed, which is still an option. He's in that trailer, and it's cut in a way where it's like, okay, that could still maybe work for setting her off on some adventure. But at the same time, then I keep reading these interviews with Neil Druckmann where people ask him about fridging, the concept of fridging a fair amount of, like, okay, is it just Ellie's girl gets killed early on and then she's a sacrifice and that propels Ellie forward? How do we get away from that trope? And the fact that Naughty Dog is so sensitive about this makes me think that that's exactly what's going on here. So, like, here's an interview, right? So here's Neil Druckmann talking about fridging in a Vice interview. He says, sometimes there are certain tropes that might have negative connotations, but we just have to own it if that's part of the genre. Again, without spoiling who lives, who survives, because so much of the story is about the stakes of the people you care for. We're aware of it, but we're making the best decisions for the story. And so it's like, man, I hope that it is a very confusing twist, and that it ends up that it's not just Dina dying, and that Dina even maybe is part of the enemy faction, and then we end up seeing things from her perspective as well. I think that'd be really cool.
What if Dina is the one who kills Joel at some point, and that she's getting revenge against Dina?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Naughty Dog, reach out. There's still time.
I think that'd be really cool, because then also the question is, you see Joel in a big way in that last trailer, like, whoa, slow down there, kid, all that stuff. But what is Joel's role? If it's a storyline about Ellie and her mom and the complexity of hate and revenge, like, Joel seems a little bit like a flat character at that point. So maybe even then they lied to us through the trailer, and it was actually Joel that gets killed in the early on section, right?
There was early speculation that, like, we were seeing Joel's ghost or something, along those lines. But that is the other seemingly obvious choice of, if this is a game about hate and Ellie's driven by hate and revenge, then why wouldn't it be Joel that's the one who gets killed off?
Do you think Dina's going to be responsible for Joel's death?
That's a great question.
Well, there's also the other side of it, like that, there's that whole, the ending basically, right? Is that could be an impetus for Ellie's hate in a lot of ways, being lied to and whatnot. And maybe that sort of informs her journey to some degree. Maybe she finds out about the secret at the end.
Yeah. But maybe Dina does. And holds it against Joel.
Because that's like the biggest, like, hanging thread, right? Is that game leaves you kind of wondering that's sort of like their whole.
But I feel like it also leaves you with the angle of, like, Ellie, she knows what she's dealing with here. I don't think she's going to have a moment of, like, what? Like, I think she knows exactly who Joel is, especially by the time of this game, right? Like, 5 years have passed. Like,
I also think it'd be weird, though, for them to not address that that story thread at all in this one. At least maybe I would be a little weirded out if it was only offhandedly like, oh yeah, you know, like you kind of wronged me in that sense, and that was weird that what you did, but I don't know, whatever. We're just gonna keep going. Like I think they kind of have to talk. There has to be a scene where if Joel is alive, you know, in any point in this game, where they have to have that thing conclude. They have to mention that, I think.
Percentage chance that it's an Arkham Knight situation that Joel is just in her head throughout the game. I would put it at 38%.
Wow.
I was going to say...
That was a lot of math in your head that you did.
I was going to say 25%.
25%.
I'd say 30.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Other clues here. So Haley Gross, who's a writer on Westworld, she's co-writing this game. And at a panel at PSX 2017, her and Neil Druckmann were talking, and Neil Druckmann said that Haley's contributions to the game literally got somebody pregnant. That because of her suggestions, somebody became pregnant.
In the studio or in the game?
Unclear. No, in the game, right?
Okay.
So it's like, okay, is Ellie going to be pregnant, or maybe Anna was already a part of the storyline and maybe Ellie will have a sibling in some way? But this also ties back to a very complicated thread that goes back to an Easter egg in Uncharted 4, where if you remember at the end of Uncharted 4, there's a poster, and it's The Last of Us American Daughters was the name of this thing. And while visiting Naughty Dog for the Lost Legacy cover story at Game Informer, we had a whole video, and you can find it. It's called like Naughty Dog and Uncharted 4's Easter eggs, I believe, something like that on Game Informer's YouTube channel. But anyways, in that I asked Neil Druckmann about that Last of Us American Daughters poster. What was that? And he was very, very coy about like, I cannot go near that one. And so
then don't put it in a game.
Well, then the question is like, is Anna part of an organization called
the
American Daughters, or are the American Daughters going to be the group that Ellie is trying to exact revenge on?
Is it going to get into a weird Handmaid's Tale situation where people are being impregnated because you have to continue on the species, you know, against certain people's will?
Maybe.
Could be.
I also think it's a little weird for him to make that remark, right? Like what do you like? How is she contributing to this game? Well, you know, because of her, a character is pregnant or something like that.
Well, it wasn't just that. He was just saying that like early on when she started contributing, that was a result of her contributions amongst, I'd assume, the rest of the script and everything like that. Yeah.
Maybe the story's so good it impregnates you as you play it.
That's very smart. That's very
something
smart.
only games can do.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Other big predictions? If you had to come out swinging?
I mean, I think the big holdover from the last game is the fact that Ellie is, you know, impervious to the infection, right?
Right.
And so it's hard to believe that won't come back somehow into the second game.
That she's just going to be hunted? I mean, does anybody know that? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, all it takes is like she gets bit at some point and someone sees that she's not, you know, getting infected or whatever for them to figure it out at some point. So I think either it will deal with her invincibility or there will be some other character that she'll realize is in the same boat as she was, and that will kind of...
And that's how she figures out that her mom's alive. Because it's her mom.
What?
Right? Why you look so horrified?
No,
maybe she sees her mom get bit, right? And then it's like, oh, what's the connection
That's
here?
why.
That's why we're actually secretly connected.
I was thinking more like a younger character or something, kind of flipping her and putting her in that guardian role where she has to, you know, watch out for someone else.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. It's kind of a Clementine thing, but
yeah,
I hear you.
But sometimes, you know, there are tropes that we just have to deal with,
right?
and embrace and do the best that we can.
Yeah, my prediction is Anna is a huge chunk of this story, but she's not secretly alive. I think it's all still going to be in the past.
How do they contextualize that though? Like you just find notes and then like it kind of zooms into the note and then you go into the flashback?
Well, no, it's just the GTA 5 click, zoom out and then goes through time and then zooms back in.
The other thing, I don't know that it's as much a prediction as something that I would like to see is that I hope that they do more with the state of the world than just the kind of static, well, everything's destroyed now and people are just living in factions and we're just going to fight, have infighting in between us. I hope they find a more interesting way to approach that and
show like the Fallout New Vegas.
Show what's happening to society as it's going on. And the first game, jumped very discreetly between seasons, and it would be interesting if they kind of do that, but with larger time chunks. I would like to see that as well.
That's a really good idea for sure.
Even if it's like you start with spring or whatever, but then summer is 5 years in the future or something like that, and kind of show us more about what's going on with this world than just, there are deadly creatures, but humans are the most dangerous ones.
And the very gameplay way they've kind of teased that is like, well, the virus has been around for so long that it's evolved, and now we have shamblers that are kind of spray acid and stalkers who are kind of a middle ground between runners and clickers. It's like, okay, there's some aspect to like the world is evolving, but I totally am with you. Get out of that classic setting. But Seattle should be interesting to explore, huh? Yeah, weird deal. Hey, we'll find out what's going on when the game releases May 29th, 2020. So please let us know how we were completely wrong or completely right.
Yeah.
There we go. Jeff, what is Sea Salt?
Sea Salt, my friend, is another random indie game I found on Game Pass. So I didn't have a lot of gaming time this week. But when I did finally get a chance to sit down, I just checked what was new on Game Pass.
Is that kind of your default mode now?
Kind of, yeah. And I'm not sure why. They add so many games on there, and it's kind of like, scrolling through the Steam store or whatever, but or a mobile store, but instead of having to deal with free to play and a bunch of other stuff, you can just jump into whatever game and it's the full game and you can check it out. And I like being able to check out a bunch of different games, and a lot of them, just going with what catches my interest at that moment.
That's how you found Children of Morta, which you still love, and it seems like more and more people are playing. I saw Andrew Reiner loves it over at Game Informer.
That's right, yeah. And so this was another one that kind of caught my eye like that because it's another kind of indie pixelated art style, but the interesting, so it's, Lovecraftian kind of horror game, right? But
Check.
Yep. And it's specifically about Dagon, I think, the fish god guy who Lovecraft was really into for some reason.
That's your god, isn't it, Suriel?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. But you're basically playing as him, but you're controlling a horde of weird Lovecraftian monster minions. And so you basically control, a little pentagram evil symbol that's kind of a cursor that you're moving around these 2D landscapes, but then you have all these different minions that will follow after and attack whatever you tell them to attack. So it's almost like an RTS game, except you're not you're just kind of controlling a swarm and telling where the swarm
like Overlord?
Or like Swarm, the classic game that everyone remembers?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say I don't have a frame of reference for either game. And so as you're doing that, you're unlocking different types of enemies that you can have within your group. So you have weird acid-spitting things and cultists who are just, like basic normal humans, but they can shoot soul powers or whatever. And
basic normal humans, yeah.
Yeah. And you're basically just making your way through these villages and eating as many people as you can, who then give you more power, and then you have to fight bosses and stuff. But it's an interesting gameplay mechanic because all you can really do is move your symbol around, your cursor, and then how the horde moves is kind of it's a little nebulous and it's a little hard. And so some characters, like archers, it will show you a crosshair where their arrow's going to hit, and you have to kind of move out of the way of it and kind of snake your way in between attacks and things. So, and there are lumberjacks who will hit their axe down into the ground and it will cause an area of effect. And then after the area of effect dissipates, you have to swarm them before they can get their axe out.
And you like this game?
Yeah, I do. And they have different bosses, where you have to kind of learn the patterns. So it's almost more puzzle game than action game as you're trying to figure these things out. But you're basically just consuming a lot of poor, helpless villagers.
That seems
in
right.
the name of Dagon.
Sea Salt. is the name of that
Sea
one.
Salt. Yes.
Sweet. Did you get a chance to check out the Bleeding Edge beta, by the way, over the weekend?
No, I was playing Sea Salt.
I'm sorry, I understand.
No, I wanted to, but by the time that I got on, it was already over.
Yeah, so it was running, it was, a pretty bold public beta to put it on Game Pass and give it to millions and millions of people to check out. But this is the new game from Ninja Theory, the Hellblade developers, which is something we can say now. But it's the one that's, character shooter, third person, a lot like Overwatch, structurally choosing your different characters. Have you seen much of this game, Suriel?
I saw the reveal trailer, and it reminded me more of what's that one game that Platinum made that was like a multiplayer brawler?
I don't know.
I don't remember what it was called. It was very, very edgelordy, but it reminded me more of that than Overwatch, where it feels like this is going to have more of like a melee focus with some shooting and some ranged attacks.
Yeah, it seems
involved.
like support has a lot of ranged attacks and stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody else has like guitars that they're constantly picking, and they all have hoverboards. It's got some tune, dude.
I would imagine that it's probably going to lean into more of their combat prowess. Is like less about like, hey, throw your abilities at somebody, and more like figure out how to do like specific combos or attacks or something like that. That's sort of my expectation, just from watching the trailer and a little bit of gameplay when they revealed it.
I mean, don't go in expecting a stylish action game or anything close to DMC or anything from their past, even the Heavenly Sword. Like it is, I didn't play too much, right? But from what I played, it's like, okay, I think I got the beats, and I don't know if there's a huge audience for it. Like, I like Ninja Theory so much, I want to support them, but at the same time, I look at this and it's like, well, this is one of those weird lingering projects that they were working on long before Microsoft purchased them, which they announced when they revealed the game. And then also when I was at Ninja Theory for the Hellblade cover story, I saw this game like on some monitors, and it had a very cartoony art style. Like, it had a completely different kind of like kid-friendly art style. So like the idea of making it more hardcore and two-defies.
More bleeding edge.
More bleeding edge, right?
It does feel like a game that maybe is a little bit maybe 2 years too late, where I think if this had hit in like 2018, 2017, like in the wake of like Overwatch, basically, I think it maybe could have been a little bit more popular. But now it just seems like it feels like the gaming world has either chosen Overwatch or moved on as a whole.
Yeah. I don't think this is Microsoft's Drawn to Death or anything. Like, it seems
it seems a little it seems a little better than
and
that.
again, on Game Pass, maybe there will be a huge player base and audience ready for just like, pick up and play some fun.
This is a
stuff.
perfect game for Microsoft to have on Game Pass, because it effectively makes it a free to play game, and so you can kind of try it and figure it out, and without any cost to you. So it'll drive people to maybe like this game could have a player base because of Game Pass, which is an interesting way to look at that title.
Yeah, for sure. And then also not too long ago, Ninja Theory revealed Project Mara, which, let's see. Okay, here's the description of Project Mara. It'll be a real-world and grounded representation of mental terror based on real lived experience accounts, and in-depth research. Our aim is to recreate the horrors of the mind as accurately and realistically as possible. Project Mara will be an experimental title in a showcase of what could become a new storytelling medium. So
Wasn't that Hellblade?
No, so it's very confusing. So Hellblade, they started working with Paul Fletcher from University of Cambridge, who on the cover story trip, we went to Cambridge and talked to him for over an hour, and it was probably the most fascinating interview of my life. Maybe someday we could post that audio because it's incredible. But because of that collaboration, then they started Insight Project, which is about creating experiences in VR and beyond to help recreate like what people with mental illness experience. And then it seems like Project Mara is one of the first ones based on that concept. So it's a horror game about mental illness. It seems bizarre, but I'm happy. I'm lucky that I'm happy that Ninja Theory gets to keep creating these weird things.
Yeah,
the bigger Microsoft umbrella.
Yeah.
Even these things where it's like VR focused. Like, what a weird angle. Like, Microsoft in VR is not leaning into it, so it's cool. They still get to keep dinking around with that stuff.
It's a little, honestly, the VR thing is maybe the thing that gives me the most promise, because it, not necessarily because like I want to play a VR game, but like based on Hellblade, it seems like their intent is to say, is to make maybe destigmatize mental health issues and things like that. But it seems, I think, because of how like for lack of a better word, like pulpy Hellblade is. It's less. It makes me empathize. Like it's more about kind of turning mental afflictions into like plot points, if you know what I mean. Less about like let's help you understand what it's like to be this type of person, and more about like let's create this elaborate plot out of this person's mental condition.
Yeah,
which seems like the wrong step. But I think with VR being kind of an avenue for people to more strongly immerse themselves, I'm hoping that they take a more less about like let's. I know, and they mentioned, like mental terror or whatever the phrase was. But I'm hoping that they use it as an opportunity to say, like, this is actually what it's like to have a mental health and to help people empathize versus like, oh, let's make a really cool story out of the fact that this person has like a mental health issue.
Right. And to be clear, like, I think the VR stuff was an Insight project overall. So I don't know if specifically Project Mara is going to be VR, but like the weird examples they showed, it's like, is this real life or is this in game? And so it seems like they could be toying with that, and hopefully they do, just to make some weird stuff.
Because it feels like if they're kind of making another one of those, like another Hellblade, then it's kind of extra weird because they're already making another Hellblade game.
Literally.
So for them to have this and then also another game that also builds, that is also kind of based on around that, seems a little weird for a company to go so hard on like, no, let's make mental plot issues into like basically, or mental health issues into plot points.
One game's enough. You're oversaturating the market. Yeah. Let's see. Escape from Tarkov, Jeff. We had a real delightful experience where people voted for us to stream this for the Great Goatee Hunt on Tuesday, and Jeffem came in with his
went in as prepared as possible.
I did. I thought I did. And then Jeffem sits down to stream and he goes, "What are we streaming today?" And I was like, "Oh no. It's this game called Escape from Tarkov that you had never heard of." What was your first reaction to seeing that game in action?
It wasn't that bad.
Okay.
I think I get this weird feeling from games like that where it seems as though there's this Arma crowd.
Yes.
Right? I think it starts with Arma and then PUBG kind of influences it a little. Mm-hmm. But it seems as though there is this blueprint that started with those kinds of games, and that part of that blueprint is having inventory systems that are just totally convoluted and take a ton of time to figure out how they work. And somehow that has kind of been translated into, well, that means it's a deep game, and that means it's a simulation ass game, and now all games of that type have to struggle with that. Was my first impression of it, because you go into that inventory screen and it's just a nightmare.
And it's more of a nightmare than you realize. It's like, okay, well, I just drag stuff over. It's kind of like RE4 inventory system, Diablo 2. How bad can it be?
Yeah, that's fine, right?
No, but then it's like, oh, no. You have to have this thing in the right pocket. But let's back up a little bit.
Yeah.
So Escape from Tarkov, it's a PC game. It's been in beta for a while now. It's made by this Russian developer, Battle State. But it's been out for a while. And then this year, it just really started ballooning on Twitch in a big way. And so I heard, speaking of Mark McDonald, I heard Brad Douglas on the 8-4-Play podcast talking about it, who used to be at Sony, now he's at Epic. But he was talking about how he was drawn to it, and it was pitched to him as it's the most intense parts of PUBG. Basically, the last 5 minutes of PUBG, that's the game. I was like, wow.
So is it a Battle Royale game?
No, it's very clear what it is. So the Wikipedia article for Escape from Tarkov says it's an indie, story-driven, massively multiplayer online, first-person shooter video game featuring elements of role-playing and simulation.
Did you just like type in every genre?
Someone did.
It's a first-person game, a lot of tension and some elements from Battle Royale, but also survival elements in there. And then if you zoom out, really what Escape from Tarkov is about is an item economy. You're going in to different maps, trying to loot, trying to find items, and then escape with the items. It's a little bit like Dark Zone from The Division, right? Escape with the items, and then there's a whole economy where you can trade with other players. You can trade with NPCs, level up your relationship with
during
these NPCs.
The match?
No, after the match, right?
Oh.
But then in the match itself, there's kind of AI patrol routes and patrol groups called scavs that are on defense. And then other players. So the Battle Royale elements are like the other players can take you out, loot your corpse, all that stuff. And whatever you bring into the game, when you die, you lose it. But you can also put insurance on it. There's a whole other system and stuff. But then also, the scavs, which are the kind of the AI folks running around, every 20 minutes you can actually play as a scav and drop in with random gear and then try and take down real players as well. So it is a complicated mess of a system, but it all ultimately is about getting those items, which in the Great Goaty Hunt stream, we did not do.
No.
We made the mistake of drinking from a water bottle, which somebody heard, and they shot us in the effing head.
Water bottle. It is a convoluted system, but it's also a super intriguing system, which I think was my other big takeaway. I like the idea of it, the kind of larger concepts of you're going into a place, you're just trying to get loot, and then you're trying to get out. Because that kind of eschews the problem that I also like battle royale games to a degree. I enjoy kind of that buildup of I can explore this place. If I hear a shootout happening, I don't have to run out and fight those guys. There are those moments where you sit there and you think, okay, do I want to engage them? Am I safe here? It's that more survival aspect that intrigues me about those games.
Yeah.
But eventually in a battle royale, you're going to get to the point where you have to fight people, because everything's kind of closing down. So I like this idea that I can go into this kind of dangerous world. I have another objective that I'm trying to meet, and then I can get out at some point and make progress that way.
Right.
So that's what's intriguing to me about it. But it seems like in order to learn it in this game, I would have to spend hours and hours learning the inventory system, all the different economies and other systems that are playing into it. And I think that seems to be the stumbling block.
It's not impenetrable, but then also you have to be pretty good at shooting too. And we should mention it's not on Steam. It's just in Battle States proprietary downloader thing. So they said in the future they'll consider bringing it to Steam, maybe Epic Game Store, if this thing keeps trending the way it is now, and that they are not ruling out consoles in the future. And so I could see it being the type of it's not to the levels of PUBG at this point, but it's skyrocketed in 2020 so far. And I can see Microsoft
it's trending that way, right?
Right. And so I could see Microsoft being like, hey, Xbox Series X at E3 announcing Escape from Tarkov's coming to consoles. I could totally see that happening. Or I could also see, wait,
this
where
is
are you
my
going with
idea.
This? Please.
2 years from now, the next Call of Duty mode is escape from wherever Call of Duty land.
I think, see, that would take 2 years. Who can turn this around in 20 minutes? I could see Epic just making a new Fortnite mode, which is just going in, grabbing loot, and escaping. I mean, they could crank that out in the time it takes to record this podcast.
Right.
I could absolutely see that
It's probably already out there right now.
Honestly, I bet they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Is just collecting loot? I feel like all the ingredients are there. Just remix some stuff. Done.
Yeah.
Escape from Fortnite Island.
It seems like a very intriguing system.
Yeah.
That was the part that was interesting me. We got to a point in the Goaty Hunt where you actually killed someone.
Oh, please.
It was an AI character, so it kind of only half counts.
Don't take this away from me, dude.
But then, and again, I mean, looting him was a nightmare just because it's all these inventory systems. You search the character and then you find out there's just a box, so you have to inspect it, and it's a backpack, and then you have to carry over the backpack, and then you have to inspect the backpack to search that.
And I know to Escape from Tarkov fans, we sound like real babies here. We could learn it. It's just there's a curve here.
Yes, but it seems like that curve has been built into these kinds of games where it seems as almost there's this meta progression of you just learning to understand the game, and there's that seems to be satisfactory to some people, where it's like you are becoming an expert. Not only do you have to learn the map, which we should mention is that you don't have a map in the game.
Well, you can buy one.
It.
Yes.
Which also I didn't get a sense of what's microtransaction-y and what's not. I didn't get a sense of the overarching economy.
The game itself is like $50.
Yeah, but it seems as though the base way that most people play is you just have to learn the map yourself. Right. And you can have a picture of a map pulled up on your smartphone or tablet or whatever.
Second screen experience.
And the fans that were, in the chat with us, they knew where we were. You could just look and it's like, oh, that tree and that rock. Well, you're at this part of the map. And I was struggling to just find it on the actual picture of the map, because these bumpkin tourists who have just been thrown into Tarkov and
I heard
don't know where we
Tarkov's
are.
really nice this time of year.
But it seems like learning those is also its own kind of progression that fans really like.
Yeah, for sure. So that's Escape from Tarkov. Next time you hear it mentioned on the internet, remember us.
Yes.
Remember
the pros.
That's right. No questions about it. Real quick, while we're on a PC front, did you guys see that a build of StarCraft Ghost got leaked?
I saw those headlines, yeah.
So there are several different YouTube videos kind of showing it off. Thank God they finally uploaded one somebody did that's like showing it off in 720p and stuff. And so it's awesome. This is obviously Blizzard's third-person StarCraft game starring Nova that was canceled, developed by the people that made Metal Arms, Glitch in the System originally, but canceled so close to the release of the game that there's this playable build with like multiple levels. And it looks like a game from 2004, but it looks pretty sweet. Did you check it out at all, Suriel?
I saw some screenshots floating around, but I didn't see the actual like full video. But I do definitely want to check it out.
Yeah, it's fun to see StarCraft from that perspective. Even with like the fidelity of StarCraft 2 and stuff, it's still fun to be like, oh, here's a Nidus Canal in third person. Like, oh, here's a siege tank, and there's weird stuff where like as Nova. Most of all, there's like a big gunner sequence where you're like gunning stuff down, which doesn't seem very Nova. But then like a big part of it in this one level is like Nova working her way through, and then there's just like Terran Marines stuck. Like, we're pinned down here, Nova! And then you have to use like this overhead strike to like come down and blast open the Nidus Canal.
Right?
Not a nuke. Yeah. Take out like overlords and stuff like that as the Zerglings are attacking them. So it's cool to see, even if it does look a little janky at this point.
Yeah, it's still a concept that I think would work well. Like
Blizzard was just working on it, right? Jason Schreier said they scrapped a project that was a first-person take on StarCraft. It's like, just let us see more of that perspective. It's sweet.
Yeah, I remember seeing the screenshots in the Game Informer story and just seeing like, oh, that's how big a siege tank is relative to this. Like, those are some of my favorite parts of the cutscenes. Is just seeing like, oh, a battlecruiser isn't like this weird thing that's like maybe you could fit maybe 2 people in.
Right.
It's like it's this giant, Star Destroyer sized thing. But like in StarCraft Ghost felt like it was going to just be all that. It's just like, here's what this world is actually like,
right,
in a way that the real-time strategy games kind of never, like they were always kind of abstract, right? Because like the Marine was this like maybe a fifth of the size of the bunker that he was in, right? But obviously that wasn't the
well, you get to see in the opening cutscene when Raynor looks up, and then you get to see the battlecruiser like turning around. You can see the scope of it there. But no, that's a good point for sure. It's just like it's so dumb that just seeing that, it's like, oh, the scale is amazing, you know? Or like even when I visited Blizzard for the Warcraft 3 Reforged, rest in peace, cover story trip, that was a big thing, is them talking about like bringing the camera in for the first version of Warcraft 3, which is Warcraft Legends, and then especially with World of Warcraft, like they were all just in love with like seeing Warcraft from that new perspective. And it's fun that even to this day, it seems like that's still a motivation within Blizzard of like, oh, maybe we can do something first-person StarCraft.
Yeah.
You know? So speaking of internet sensations and Blizzard, have you guys heard of Wolcen, Lords of Mayhem? Wolcen? How would you spell this?
I think it's Wolcen.
Is he just saying words?
I think it used to be another game, and I think the name of the game changed partway through development.
WOL.
Wolcen.
CEN, which, it was kickstarted a while ago. It's been in early access for a long time on Steam, but it's out and it is destroying the internet. It is taking over. Like, if you look at like the Steam charts, it has more players than Rainbow Six Siege, GTA 5, PUBG.
Jeez.
It's a Diablo clone, Jeffem.
Okay. Is there a giant glass sphere in your HUD that slowly fills up with a liquid when you do attacks?
They are bars. I'm sorry. It is not the full
revolution. No, I mean, they're
UI.
revolutionizing the game here.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, people are in love with like the flexibility of different builds and stuff like that, but it seems like everybody is playing it and everybody is acknowledging it's pretty buggy and janky right now. Like the online issues are all over the place. Even I was playing offline and it was still chugging more than it should have in different spots. But like the basic hook is flexibility of the build for the character, and then also it's like a darker tone, which is interesting. It's like where Diablo 4 is going, except with Wolcen, it's here right now. You can play it.
Even darker, grim dark.
And it's amazing to see like a game like this that's getting mixed reviews on Steam still just become a juggernaut. Like people are still hungry for that ARPG formula.
What was the last major game in this genre that came out? Like that was like a Diablo.
Hello.
You can't even remember.
Hang on. Marvel. What was that game from last year?
Ultimate Alliance.
Ultimate Alliance 3.
Yeah.
So hello.
You went on the cover story for that. You don't even remember the names.
Months
And
editing videos.
I know people will say like Path of Exile, right? Like that's like the big one that I think has picked up a lot of the slack that Diablo has left behind. But even that I feel is a little long in the tooth at this point. Like they keep releasing expansion packs, but like it feels like even that was like long enough ago that people are
hungry for another one.
Yeah, for something different. You know, even if it's not just like as fleshed out as Path of Exile.
Right.
Because it's like what else? Like there hasn't been a Torchlight game in a long time. That's really the only other real long-term competitor that I can
Didn't they just
name.
like reboot the third game in that series too?
Yeah, they changed it from Frontiers. Then like Torchlight Frontiers is now basically Torchlight 3.
Right.
But like beyond that, like I don't know that we've had a ton of like games of this size, right?
Yeah.
So obviously, even if it's not good, people are like, well, Diablo 4 isn't out yet, so we'll play this.
I think people are finding a lot to love with it, and like everybody says, like, okay, if they patch up these few things and get their act together, like this is a super solid action.
Yeah,
RPG.
I mean, and that formula is so good. You know, like people fall in love with that formula. It's kind of like collectible card games in the same way. Like it doesn't take a lot. There are a lot of indie games like Slay the Spire, doesn't need the most amazing graphics or anything. But when a developer can smartly tap into that formula, it's just a fun experience. And you don't need much more beyond that.
For sure. Yeah, it's going to be fun to track. I could also see this following the Escape from Tarkov formula with Phil Spencer, our boy, getting out on stage at E3. Wolcen, coming to consoles.
Start buying stuff, Microsoft.
Gimme. Get that hot Wolcen property. Jeff, what's Wizard of Legend?
The most generic game title you'll ever hear.
What about Legend of Wizard?
I think we played this in the collection of random Steam games for that great Goaty Hunt a while ago, wasn't it? Guardians of Champion?
Yeah. I actually thought it was Age of Wizard a minute ago before we started filming because it is a very generic title. But if you actually check it out, this was the other game that I found on Game Pass, just another random, that looks like it might be interesting, and downloaded it. If you are a fan of Children of Morta, which we had mentioned, and there seems to be a lot of fans out there, they should also check out this one. It was released in 2018, at least on PC. It has like a 90% on Steam, and it's basically that kind of roguelike. You're going into procedurally generated dungeons with a wizard this time, and you're getting new abilities and things. But again, a very lush and nicely animated pixel art style, and the biggest component of it is that each move that you have is kind of symbolized by a card, and there are over 100 different moves, and so you can you have fireballs and dash moves and every kind. It seems a lot of elemental based attacks, and it seems kind of drawing inspiration from Avatar, like the last Airbender Avatar. And so it plays very. I actually like the moment-to-moment action gameplay more than Children of Morta. It feels kind of like a beat 'em up, and it is very difficult, but it's very fast-paced and very satisfying. And so each time you're going through different runs until you get to the bosses, or you die much earlier than that if I'm the one playing, but you can get these different kind of cards, and then you reconfigure what the half dozen moves or so you're going to use and try and make a new build out of those characters. And it's just very beautifully animated, tons of different kinds of enemy types and those kind of things.
Wizard of Legend.
You
probably accidentally already own it.
Yeah, if you have already forgotten the name by the time you go to Game Pass, just look for the wizards on the box art.
Type in Jeff M Game into Xbox, and these will show up.
Yes, recommend it.
You have an affiliate program with them.
Yeah, you keep downloading these games. Here's another one.
Any other games you guys have been playing you want to talk about? Suriel, did you play anything on the trip?
No, I finished Kentucky Route Zero. That game ends pretty well. Not the way you'd expect, but it is a very sobering finale that I think brings a lot of the themes of that game together, even if it doesn't delve into like, what are all the mysteries? It doesn't like necessarily close all of the loops, but it does deliver like the kind of finale that you want that game to have.
Okay, nice.
And then I played Chrono Trigger. Here's a game I played, Groove Coaster, at an arcade. Which is
fun,
because that game, I guess, is like if you go to a Japanese arcade, there are a lot of rhythm games there, And Groove Coaster was the one I played most because they have Undertale songs in that game. So that was really fun to play through a bunch of Undertale songs. And like Groove Coaster is really cool. Like, and they made the arcade version better because you have like these two kind of sort of analog sticks. And the idea is that like as you can tap, there are certain notes that you can tap. There are certain beats where you slide. There are ones where you have to do it with both. And there's one where you grab one and kind of like move it back and forth. And I think that works well enough to expand the game because it used to be just a mobile game where you just kind of touch that with your hand. But that was really fun. A lot of Gundam Versus is going on over there. Like we went to one of the arcades in Akihabara and like it was just like there was just the basement full of that game. And we played a couple matches and it was fun. And then at some point, like we didn't realize that we were playing against other people and they just kind of destroyed us. But it was like when it was just the four of us playing against each other, that game was actually really fun.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, that's not a thing you can really do on the console super easily. So it kind of made me want to like, hey, everybody buy a copy of this game. Let's play some online Gundam Versus in 2020.
That's what your future's looking like,
exactly.
Man. The future is too bright. Hey, do you know how this whole thing operates, Jeffem?
On Bubbly.
Bubbly.
I used that joke before.
Okay, take it again.
On Pikachu Skateboard.
Patreon. Patreon.com/MinnMax, 2 N's. If you support us over there, hey, we really appreciate it. And you support us at any tier, you get access to the Discord, which is just nonstop bliss. It's the Shangri-La, nicest place on the internet, including, I'm very excited about this, other Survivor fans out there.
No.
Please, if anybody else is excited about Survivor, War of the Winners, along with me, we have set up a discussion channel.
Please talk to him so he doesn't talk to us about it.
Well, if you guys would start watching the best show on TV, I wouldn't have to talk to everybody else. But we have a channel in the Discord devoted to talking about Survivors. So please join me in there and let's unpack every episode. It'll be like a continual max spoilers, except for every episode of Survivor in there. So it'll be a good time. Also, Tabletop channel.
That's right.
A ton of other amazing channels. A very nice community. Check it out. And if you support us at the $20 tier, you get to join us for MinnFax, which is our weekly Q&A.
Mm-hmm.
If you're curious about the behind the scenes of MinnMax, what's going on, what the future might hold, that's the best place to unpack everything there. And this week is very special, where Sunday, February 23rd, we're going to have our second ever call-in version of MinnFax.
That was a fun one.
Yes, it was super fun. And so we're going to be doing that again. So Sunday, February 23rd at 6 p.m., if you are a $20 supporter, you get access to the Discord, and then we'll go in the Discord and you say, hey, I'm ready for a call. We'll call you up and you can record a podcast with us for a while.
That's right.
For $20? You kidding me? You can ask us anything you want. You can make Jeff uncomfortable.
Hey, I'm up for it.
Anything goes. So please join us. If you're confused about all those steps, send me a tweet at Yozetti, Yozetty on Twitter, or if you're a Patreon supporter, send me a message on Patreon. I'd be happy to guide you through exactly how that works, how you get access to the Discord.
And the people in the Discord, well, yeah, if your problem is getting into the Discord, then ask Hanson. But once you're into the Discord, they'll help you set up everything.
It's a piece of cake. Patreon.com/MinnMax, 2 N's. We'd appreciate it. And hey, get a load of this. I'm sorry, that's not quite yet.
Nope.
Anyways, Hyperdot. Hyperdot says, hey, this is the fourth and final week talking about Hyperdot, an action arcade game with one rule: dodge everything. Hang on, it says, since we are no longer under the onerous thumb of their patronage, we are freed to share our real feelings on Hyperdot.
Are we saying that, or are they saying that?
They wrote that for us to say. So at this point...
Oh.
That's right. What better way to say that we're free of their patronage than for them to tell for them to feed us a lie?
Point is, hey, no more sponsorship from Hyperdot. You can say what you really feel about this game on Xbox and Steam, Jeffem, and it is...
I still like it. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I want to do another competitive night where we play.
That would be super fun, for sure. Yeah.
Once the Patreon thing is over, we can do a night where we play it.
Then we really get into showing off Hyperdot? Yes. Yeah. So if you're a fan of Geometry Wars, arcadey games like that in general, celebrate good local competitive gaming with Hyperdot. Because it is my go-to still for okay, have friends over, 4 players, I want to play Hyperdot. Just set those... You're
a dot now, my friend.
That's right. Settings to random, let it fly. I think it's a great time. Charles McGregor has been working on this game for years and years and years. Glitch published it. Glitch has helped Game Informer and us out throughout the years. So the least you could do is check out their game. If it seems up your alley, check it out. And then leave a review on Steam. Because Charles McGregor is the nicest man on earth. He's been developing this game for years, and it could use more reviews on Steam and use a little more love, because I do think it is one of my favorite games of the year, honestly, so far. So Hyperdot, please check it out. Also, to help spread the good word, if you tweet out this episode of the MinnMax Show, either audio version, video version, whichever version you'd like, and include hashtag Hyperdot, I will choose my absolute favorite tweet that helps share the show and it helps share Hyperdot, and then send you a code on Steam for the game itself.
There you go.
Hey, surprise twist. It's the grand finale for Hyperdot's sponsorship. We have 2 codes to give away. So your odds just doubled, my friends. So please, hashtag Hyperdot and this episode of the podcast, and we'll send you out a code. Also, Riley Hill, Superhero Cinema Scoop. Superhero Cinema Scoop is proud to sponsor MinnMax. Superhero Cinema Scoop is a YouTube channel dedicated to bringing you all the latest news about upcoming superhero movies, shows, and video games. Stories from Marvel, DC, Image, Valiant, IDW, and many more are covered. Videos are uploaded at least once a week, and now there's an audio-only version available on most major podcast streaming services. Superhero Cinema Scoop is the perfect all-in-one place for comic book movie fans, and remember, that's cinema spelled with an S. Check it out. Check out Superhero Cinema Scoop on YouTube. They have a new YouTube video talking about the rumors of a new Marvel vs. Capcom game. Have you seen this, Suriel?
What are those rumors? I guess what ended up happening was that the voice actor for V, or at least this is the thing that I saw. I don't know if this is what he's talking about.
From Devil May Cry 5.
Yeah, from Devil May Cry 5. Basically posted a tweet saying like, oh, I'm very excited for the next hashtag Capcom versus game. Some of the newcomers might be a little like familiar, right? It's kind of hinting that he's going to be in this next game, but I don't think he knew that they hadn't revealed what the next game might be. So, and he hasn't, I think last I checked, he hasn't taken out the tweet, which is very odd. Which makes me think that it's less likely, because I think if he'd taken it down, that would have been like a whole Streisand effect where obviously people would have been like, then it's totally happening. So it's a little weird. I don't know if he's just misinformed or if he's like totally like, okay, I guess they're gonna, because you know, Marvel vs. Capcom is not the only thing that Capcom does where their characters cross over. So it could be for like a card game or like a mobile game or something like that. Oh, and then maybe he's just mistaking
is it gonna be Tekken? Do you think?
Like, yeah, that could totally be it, right? And then he's just kind of mistaking Tekken for like, oh, that's that Capcom versus game.
Oh no.
But a lot of people took that and ran with it as like, is there another Capcom versus game?
That's interesting. And just get Marvel out of there?
Yeah, but which is, I think, what a lot of people would want them to do, because I think a lot of, especially like Infinite, suffered from Marvel's kind of control on the situation. Or at least that's, what I've seen. But that's
very compelling. Yeah. Mysterious. Also, hey, thanks to our sponsor, I Am 8-Bit. They're doing an awesome job. They have an online store where you can buy the Cuphead soundtrack on vinyl, a bunch of Sony soundtracks on vinyl like Last Guardian, Uncharted, physical versions of games like Inside, Grim Fandango, the Inside Collector's Edition, which Kyle sleeps with on a nightly basis. Mm-hmm. And if you check out anything in that store, you can get 10% off your entire order by entering the promo code
MinnMax.
That's one more time, promo code
MinnMax, 2 N's.
There we go. 10% off your entire order. Please check it out. I Am 8-Bit store has a lot of great stuff. And they're also selling the physical versions for Kentucky Route Zero, Suriel, on PS4 and Switch, and the entire soundtrack. Scale of 1 to 10. How's that soundtrack, Suriel?
It's really good.
Okay, sincerely, pretend they're not supporting us. What would you rate that, scale of 1 to 10?
I would rate it as I was listening it while I was working this morning.
There we go. That sounds like a 10 out of 10 to me. But anyways, for more information on Kentucky Route Zero, please call 1-858-943-6579. I think things are changing, Suriel. So please, for more information, please call 1-858-943-6579.
He gets creepier every time he does that.
The text compels me. Now, let's open up the Minnbox and honor the I'm 8-Bit question of the week. Okay, the Minnbox. Every week we post on Patreon for Patreon supporters at any tier, and they can leave a comment, question, word of wisdom, anything, and we might read it on the show. And then we're going to choose our absolute favorite, and I'm 8-Bit will ship something out because they're very generous. This is not just in the United States. They'll ship it across the effing world. You could be in Antarctica.
Pluto.
I Am 8-Bit will ship it to you. This week it is, you want to grab that, Jeffem? It's the vinyl soundtrack for Old Man's Journey, which was a game from not too long ago, but it is a sweet, sweet textured vinyl. So they'll ship that out to you. And if you don't have a record player, buy one. It's 2020, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on.
Get with it.
It just looks sweet on a shelf. It's really nice packaging. Yeah. Anyways, first question. Fred DeNovo says, hey, we're running out of time to wildly speculate about next-gen systems. So, what do you think the Series X and PlayStation 5 game cases will look like?
Oh.
Are we getting a new shade of green and blue? Will Xbox still keep the discs on the left? This is such a good question. I love this. I had not thought about this. Do you think they're going to be changing that up?
It's going to be a paper envelope.
Right.
Because those are even less expensive to ship.
Smart.
So, I don't know.
And it'll just say Xbox on it.
Well, hang on. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they've used like the Xbox One, basically MinnMax green, in any of the branding for Series X. Like on the official site, they have like the play video thing, and it's like a lighter tone of green. But in the video itself, no green. Is there a universe where Xbox gets away from green for Series X branding?
Black. I know. I think they'll stick with green.
Yeah.
But
so I think the spine of Xbox Series X cases still green.
Yeah, I think so.
I think
it'd be
too.
weird. It'd be weird for them to change color now.
Yeah. So maybe that brighter green though.
Maybe.
Okay, just to change it up a little bit so they don't make it too confusing.
Maybe they fold up vertically now.
Or will they do just black with some kind of green in there?
That would be really sweet. That's possible. It seems like kind of that black and gray as the Series X looks so far.
Well, I guess since I'd have to see what the Series S will look like if that's what the route they're going, right? So if it's like black and white, I guess it makes less sense to lean into the green color. But it's not like they've recently updated anything about their brand, right? Like like the Xbox stuff is all still green, so I don't think there's any reason for them to change the color on that end.
What if it's black and white and red all over, like a newspaper?
That very modern technology that they want to ape.
Actual another question, prediction. Will they change the dimensions of the box at all? Because I feel like that is an actual case where they may take shipping into account.
And make it like CD shaped, like an old CD case? That'd be wild. Well, and then you go to Sony's side of the fence and you think about like, well, that logo, the drastic change from the PS4 to the PS5, right? I mean, are they just going to have the exact same format for
It's
PS5?
kind of nice that they all are the same size and would fit together.
I could see them using a different shade of blue to differentiate like PS4 games from PS5 games.
Yeah.
But I think because they are so tied into like the Blu-ray kind of size dimensions, they might just stick with that same kind of.
But they could do a different color because the PS3s were clear, right?
They're black.
The boxes were transparent.
Oh, the spine, at least I'm thinking.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I guess they could. Yeah. Hey, this is how you know it's a fun time in the industry because we don't even know what these game cases are going to look like.
That's right.
I guess they're going to have them. Nanook of the Prairie. Interesting. Welcome. Nanook says, hey, has the best game on each of the current generation of consoles been released yet? I love this question. I can't imagine anything surpassing Witcher 3 as my favorite PlayStation 4 game, and maybe one of the upcoming big releases will surprise me and move to the top of my list. And what if a launch game like Breath of the Wild is the best game on Nintendo Switch? I bet Breath of the Wild, the first one, will be the best game.
Say probably.
Which is wild for a launch game, right? Although, what's the best N64 game?
Ocarina of Time.
Okay. Well, never mind then. Anyways, I can see it for Switch, that having peaked.
Yeah.
The question really at this point, I guess, is Cyberpunk. And if 5 years from now we even see that as a last-gen game. Because I'm guessing it's going to be...
Kind of straddle that.
Right. Even just think about, like, it's confusing to think back on what generation GTA 5 is. It's like, yeah, I guess it was last gen, but it's kind of known for both in such a big way now. And I think Cyberpunk is going to be that same case. So... I don't know how defining for the generation it has to be to just solely be on that, but
I mean, what are we considering the best for PS4 at this point?
The best game? Amplitude.
Then I guess it's already been released, right?
I believe this.
Yeah, I don't know. What is your guys' top PS4 game?
In terms of exclusives or just all around?
I guess not.
Question.
I guess not.
I guess it's probably Witcher 3 then, but even though I played it on PC, which is weird. But
yeah, I'm struggling to think of what number one PS4 game would be for me. Like, I love Blackout so much as a world in which...
Wow, wasn't expecting Blackout.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I think most people would say God of War.
Oh, of course.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
Which, I don't know if I feel like that's what people are going to go with, and part of that is exclusive. I think exclusivity plays a role in when people decide their favorite of a generation.
I think that's important.
But I feel like it would have to be a Sony property to top that in most people's minds.
Right. So Last of Us Part 2 might do it for you?
I think it would have to be that. It would have to be that at this point, right?
Okay. What are the
Sony's
odds?
not coming out with any other major,
Ghost of Tsushima.
which is PS4 too, right? So
yeah, there could be more. But would you say, what are the odds that Last of Us Part 2 is going to top God of War in your own heart and mind?
I didn't finish God of War, so I wasn't. I totally understand that it's a great game, but
me.
I'm not as big of a fan. Okay,
I'm not either.
I will take all the crap for Red Dead Redemption 2 and not
Please.
finishing that because I do enjoy that so much. I was having fun with God of War.
What are you doing?
And appreciating that it was a good game. I'm living life, man.
I know. I went back to Red Dead 2 this last weekend because I went to New Orleans not too long ago, and I'm like, I'm going to go around Saint Denis again. And
it's exactly the same as
it's exactly
New
the
Orleans
same.
now.
Yeah, it was very fun to walk around because I went on so many history tours in New Orleans. It's like, oh, it's kind of fun now to slowly stroll around the streets, but I forgot what a pain in the ass a lot of things in Red Dead are. I still love Red Dead 2 so much, but the save that I loaded up was like opposite side of the map. So I'm like, oh, I'll just have a nice stroll over there and just help, ah! And then get bandits attacking me left, and I'm like, I just am trying to get to Saint Denis.
That's why it's the Wild West.
That's
Anything can
right.
happen.
Jeff, I want to play the rest of that game with you.
We'll have to make it a Patreon goal.
You can't do that to our community.
$20,000.
Okay, you suck.
Now you have a reason to not play
Boo
the
this
game.
man.
I'm holding off
Yes,
until we get to the rewards here.
Jaren Esty says, did anyone see... Anyways, the point for Nanook is that, yes, absolutely, that's probably the peak, right? Of each generation is probably already passed, but we'll see.
Probably.
Gabriel Logue says, hello, MinnMax crew. How often do you find yourselves going back to games you've completed for reasons other than nostalgia? He says in Q1, he goes back to a lot of older games. Do you often find yourself going back to a game to help inform your opinion after several years removed?
Sometimes I'll go back to a game when the sequel's about to come out. Like I plan to do that for both Half-Life 2 and Doom.
Yeah.
Since those sequels are coming out next month. So
That's so fast.
I know.
Oh my God.
Yeah. There are games that I go back to, such as Diablo 3, I think, is one where I can keep going back to it. Sometimes it's because it's been remastered or they've added, something new to it. But I don't typically... I like that question because it's an interesting idea of how much do opinions change over time. And I think they do. If I do go back to a game, I think my opinions tend to change. Sometimes I'll be a little warmer. Sometimes I'll be a little cooler on them.
Now that you're not a professional game reviewer, at least right now, was that unnerving when you had a review and then you went back and replayed a game and it changed? Was that like, oh, now I feel weird for having that number out there?
It never changed that drastically, I think. So it didn't bother me that much. Reviews are also a time and place. That's another thing that we have to get into arguments about reviews. That's how I felt about it back then, and it's okay that it changes, but...
Yeah, for sure. Now it's Jason Esty's turn. He says, hey, did anybody see the teaser for Atomic Heart that came out last week? From what I understand, it's set in an alternative Soviet Russia with killer robots and a hallucinating main character. The teaser is eerie in the best way possible. It surprised me to find that the game was originally advertised with a 10-minute trailer back in 2018. Yet until last week, I'd never heard of the game. Have you guys ever experienced that type of blind spot where an interesting game completely passes by your radar until it's released?
Yeah, Atomic Heart is the main example.
Yeah, did you look it up?
No.
Okay, great. I had a weird one with this with the first Guitar Hero, where I loved amplitude and especially frequency back in the day from harmonics. And I was in college, and I remember sitting in my cramped little dorm room and being like, what is this? Guitar Hero GameSpot? I think they gave it a 9. Like, what is it? From harmonics? What somehow I completely missed this. And then it was like that day, like, all right, traveling over to Best Buy, and I'm going to carry this huge guitar case all the way back on the bus, and everyone's going to make fun of me, and I don't care. It's worth it. And then it turns out it's one of my favorite games.
Well, it happened for me with Undertale, honestly. Like, I remember, like, the first I heard about it was, like, a bunch of glowing reviews for it. And I was like, well, what is it? Like, apparently it's been out for, like, it'd been kickstarted and all that stuff, and there was, like, a development log, but I guess it'd been around for a while. I just never heard of it until it came out, and people were going gaga over it. So.
Yeah. They still going gaga?
Oh, they're going gaga.
I'm curious how that game would hold up. Speaking of the previous question, I went back and replayed it because I enjoyed it a fair amount, but I think I'm so pissy as a person. I think I'd go back and be like, the fan base on the internet likes it too much. So now I have to like this less.
Yeah, I mean, I think I played it again when the PS4 version came out, and I still it's a lot shorter than I remember it being. Not that I remember it being super long or anything, but I remember like the second time you can get through it a lot more quickly. Yeah, for sure. But I think that the parts of that game that work, still really work. So
right on. Stud Muffin, who is a moderator in the Discord. Thank you for your excellent
I'm sorry. My answer to that is that's every time I go on to Game Pass. This is what I'm learning about a new game for the first time and falling in love with it.
There it is.
Then I have to scream at you to go play a Wizard of Legend.
Isn't it Legend of Wizard or Wizard of Legend?
It's not important. Go on. What did Stud Muffin have to say?
Stud Muffin says, hey, can the table please brainstorm a new Twitter handle for Jeffem? Let's get that bad boy changed. What is it right now, Jeffem?
It's still GI Jeffem. And I was going to change it after I got fucking fired, as we all know. But then Andy told me not to because he had put my Twitter handle in the last magazine, and I did actually get a bunch of new followers from that, which I don't know that matters or I care about that.
What are you talking about? You don't have to make a new account. You can change your name.
I know, but it was because he put it in. Yeah, so I
if
just
you were to change it now, what would you change it to?
Just Jeffem.
Is Twitter Jeffem taken?
Twitter.com/JeffM.
No, just Jeff M. Right?
Justice Jeff. Hang on. That's very good. Jeffem is taken by Jeff Mastro Monaco. He seems cool.
Hey.
Hot. Just Jeffem? I'm sorry, just Jeffem is taken by Jeffem McGuire.
I'm GI Jeffem forever.
It could be like gastrointestinal.
The GI can stand for something else, right?
Yeah. Gastrointestinal Jeffem.
Exactly. Yeah. Whatever GI stood for with the GI Bill. What does the GI stand for the military?
General Infantry?
Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's what GI stands for.
We got to give him a history
General
book.
Infantry Joe, they call him.
I did have a moment where I realized, like, oh man, maybe I should leave my old Yosetti Twitter handle behind. I've had it for so long. I was like, why not?
No, you can't
you can change
that.
it to something like GI Yosetti.
That's what I mean. No, but I was like, I should just change it to like MinnMax Hansen or something. And
Remember, and I'm still mortified by this moment. I was yelling at you at one time in the office. I was getting all worked up about something, and I referred to you as Yosetti instead of Ben to your face, and you were just like, Yosetti. I got super embarrassed by that.
Yeah,
I still remember that. Yes, that was
really. And I don't know if you caught this, but I've actually been calling you Jeffem for years now. Talking of embarrassing. Talking of embarrassing.
That's how words work.
Okay, Suriel, we got to come up with better for Jeffem.
J. Marchiafava?
Yeah. Why not just do a hang time? Twitter.com/hangtime.
Yeah, I'm sure hang time's open.
All right, great.
Okay, Twitter.com/GI
please
hangtime.
Write in with Jeffem's new Twitter handle, please.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate it. Patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns. Hans
NBA
Klein-
Jeff.
NBA Jeff. That's absolutely taken, right?
Of course.
Hang on. Twitter.com/NBA. Hang on. NBA Jeffem is wide open.
There you go.
Yeah, pretty good.
Someone has already taken it. Because there's
You have until this podcast goes
it's
goes
not going to
live.
happen.
That'd be so stupid. Hans Kleinenberg says, Ben, when you went to Amsterdam to visit Gorilla for Game Informer's Horizon cover story, how long did you visit and what did you guys do just besides visiting the studio? Did you have any free time in the city? Also, for a possible chuckle on my end, can you pronounce this street name? It's Herrengracht. That's going to be my attempt at it. Anyways, I've been to Amsterdam a couple times, and I really, really liked it. I went years ago. It was like a layover, but we stayed the night, and it was Tim Turry and Ben Reeves and I, and went to like the Anne Frank house and stuff. Why are you?
And what did you guys consume?
It was a interesting evening that really made me laugh a lot. And so on the Gorilla cover story trip, though, for Horizon Zero Dawn, it was just Kim and I. Let's see, outside of the studio, we went to the big art museum not the Van Gogh Museum, but there's another one that also has Van Gogh in it. I forget the name of it, but that was lovely. Got like the audio tour, that whole thing. Then I remember we went to like the red light district and drinking and saw the sun come up. It was a night that went longer than I wanted it to and expected. But
Did jet lag have anything to do with that? Had you like fallen asleep?
What's that?
Well, was the time difference? Is that why you were able?
No, I think it's the red light district part of it.
yeah,
right?
I think that was it. And also, it was a long night, but very fun. Also, I feel really bad because Herman Hulst, who's now, head of the Sony Studios and stuff, he made some reference to how I need to have raw herring and how he wanted to eat raw herring with me. And I didn't understand what he said at first, or I misheard it, and I was like, yeah, okay. And it kind of was passive. And then he kept bringing it up, and I was confused because I didn't understand it the first time. And now I feel really guilty that I never had raw herring with Herman Hulst. So at some point in my future, I think I should probably do that.
Is that just sushi at that point?
That's right.
Is that...
Yeah, Dutch sushi. Marriott Player says, hey, what's your sleep schedule like? Mine used to be terrible until I tracked it with a mobile app, and now I've never slept better. Stay warm up there. Thank you. Tracked it with a mobile app.
What does the
That's
mobile app
interesting.
do?
I don't know.
Just tracks your sleep.
Yeah, tell us more, Marion.
Just
I guess-
like shames you?
Yeah.
Reminds you to go to sleep or something? Is that
Maybe.
That could be. I sleep like a baby. I feel so sorry for people who have a tough time with that. But, I still am keeping with a pretty... I've woken up earlier since leaving Game Informer. So sometimes I'll get started at like
good.
7 or 8 on MinnMax stuff in the morning. Come down to the freezing cold studio and stuff. But how's your sleep schedule, Jeff?
It was good for a long time after things that happened.
Right.
And then it got bad again. I was staying up till like 2 or 3 in the morning and sleeping too long. And now my wife and I are kind of back to a midnight-ish deadline. And then we're usually we've just been waking up naturally because of that around kind of 8 or 9.
So sweet. Yeah, it turns out the significant other has a huge impact on that. My girlfriend like wakes up automatically around like 7 every morning or 8 every morning. It's like, okay, that's great. I don't need to set an alarm on the weekends. This is the best ever.
Yeah. I tend to not ever need alarms because no matter what alarm I put, I always wake up at least an hour ahead of it because for whatever reason. I don't know why.
That's your internal alarm.
Yeah. I just wake myself up because like even if it's like 5 a.m., I'm setting my alarm to 5 a.m. to do a thing or whatever. I'll always wake up at like 4. And it's like, even though I don't usually wake up at 4 randomly. It's just like this weird thing where I've just
So
like...
set your alarm for 6 and then
Right.
you wake up
Wake up at
naturally at 5.
Right.
So
It's
always
your little
set
biological clock.
Yeah.
It's ticking. Suriel.
It's
Catch my drift.
ticking. Better watch
Oh,
it.
jeez.
Anyways, Lucy Yearwood writes in, says, hey, I love this question, Lucy. She says, what's the best game whose title is one syllable?
I got it.
What is it?
It's Doom.
Doom's a contender. It's definitely up there.
That is good.
Suriel, can you think of any other one-syllable names? Because I had a tough time with it, and then I looked it up. I was like, oh, there's actually a decent amount of
Yeah.
one-syllable game names.
I think the first one that comes up is probably Fez.
Oh, very good. I didn't even have that one written
I
down.
really like that game.
Yes,
but-
absolutely. Okay,
Wait, are we saying the best game with a one-name title or the
Yes.
best title?
the best
For a-
game.
with-
Do you like Fez more than Doom, Suriel?
Which Doom 2016 or regular Doom?
But are we still just
Either.
saying the best game that has a one-name title or the best one?
Lucy says best
title.
game whose title is one syllable.
syllable.
Oh, okay. Well then, yeah.
Doom 2016.
No, I'm sure there's better now, right?
Mist.
Journey.
Journey is multiple syllables.
Oh, one syllable.
One syllable.
Not just
Yeah.
one word.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay,
So you would be looking for
God,
flow.
this question has so many layers.
I'd argue it has one. Mist is up there for me. Worms. Okay, you
going.
guys want other hints
Yeah,
for
keep
good
going.
games?
Keep going.
Okay, it's a PlayStation 4 game. We talked about it on the PS4
Trine.
episode. Oh, interesting. No. Launch PS4 game. Mark Cerny's Baby.
Knack.
There we go.
But that's again. It has to.
we're
It has
going
to also
for the
be
best
good.
games.
Okay, what about
Portal. Port.
not split not,
Port.
not split second, but from Bizarre Creations,
Minute.
racing game, Mario Kart inspired, awesome game, underrated.
Oh, that racing game. What's it called?
Blur.
Blur, yeah.
I like Blur more than Doom, but I'm not a Doom guy. I understand this.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so far Fez is still probably mine.
What's that, Jeffem?
Amped?
Is that one?
I guess that counts. Yeah. There's Arms up there for sure. Spore, Thief, Steep, Rez. Also,
Yeah,
think about
Rez.
good games. It's a weird thing,
How
too.
did you search for this?
Somebody made a list somewhere. It's awesome. What about other games from a certain developer? There's a developer who, God, over in the recent time, all of their games have been one syllable.
COD.
Nope. We mentioned one of their games earlier, 2016.
2016?
I think of
Quake?
id. Yeah, Quake and Rage, right? Isn't that
Okay,
crazy?
Yeah.
Isn't that weird, you guys? I think it's very weird. Okay, what about this
Yeah.
one? Last one syllable game. Other than Prey, Pyre, Dirt, Gun, Haze, Chime, Braid, Blood, Black, and
Braid
Arms.
might be up there for me.
Ooh, okay. Or Thief. Old game. I don't know if this game started on mobile phones, but I played it on the first phone I had.
Threes.
Snake?
Snake. Very good. Everybody knows that Snake is one syllable. Lewis
Good.
Kane.
It's a good question.
Lewis Kane says, hey, what the hell were Warner Brothers Montreal thinking with the quote-unquote marketing of this new Batman game? Why did they think it was a good idea to do this kind of intricate multi-social media Court of Owls teaser when they could just drop it cold turkey? Did this make anyone excited? Their last tweet is that dumb logo from the 9th of January. Like, seriously, what is up with that? Even if people were excited, surely leaving it like a dead end for that long, like longer than a month at this point, isn't doing them any favors. Thoughts on this? Yeah, that's dumb. I thought for sure it was building up to a Game Awards tease, but to have a tease and then just let it go cold for a while, it seems like something shifted, something happened. I would imagine. I ain't no marketer, but it seems like an odd.
That's not how teases work, right? You don't just wait for it to die cold.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, remember that thing?
And there was a rumor I saw online that it is like a Batman reboot, that it won't be in the Arkham timeline and stuff. But who knows? Yeah, I mean, they've been building up excitement for so long, and now just nothing. Whatever. So yeah, they're out of their effing minds. All right, Antonio Lamberty. Happy Labor Day. He says, hey, in the making the show better category, you need to get a goal for hiring someone to sit in a booth off camera and audibly laugh at Hanson's home. Laugh at my home? You can do that if you follow us on Instagram. A lot of candid shots of my house. It's MinnMax Show, by the way, on Instagram. Anyways, Mike Sweet. He says, hey, I'm back to being a Patreon supporter.
Hey.
After taking a little break due to my financial situation, but didn't and will never stop following your work. Very sweet, Mike. Mike says, I was actually the third person to pledge on launch day.
Nice.
Isn't that nice? Jeff Cork was number
We know
one.
Jeff Cork was one.
Anyways.
So now who's number two?
Tell us if you're two. Yeah, that would be fun to go find. Anyways, Mike says, what's something you all left behind for a little while, but came back to it, and it was like you never left?
I mean, he wasn't gone for that long, right? It was like a month, maybe.
Several years, he says.
It could only be like 2 months at the top.
Okay. Anyways,
Okay.
what's something you all left? You left your child for a bit, right, Jeffem?
What? That joke would have worked better with Kyle here.
I guess that makes more sense. I had a weird thing where I used to really love the Rebel FM podcast and listen to it for a very long time. And then I was like, oh, I'll take a break. And then didn't go back to it for like 4 years or something. And then just a couple weeks ago, I'm like, I'm going to listen to the latest Rebel FM. And it is wild. It's like, oh, still my boy Bet Chandernay holding down the fort. And then like Arthur Geese still there. And it's like, oh, it's just bizarre seeing some things go on and not really change that much. And it's not like a damning thing. It's kind of sweet just to be like, oh, this thing that I used to love is always there if I ever want it. Yeah, they're always there.
I think mine was the Waypoint podcast, which I listened to when it launched, and then I don't remember why I stopped listening to it, and then I came back to it recently, and I still really like that podcast.
Yeah. What do you like about it?
I think they tackle topics from for one, they tackle topics that you don't see on a lot of podcasts, and they also have Austin Walker's perspective on games specifically is something that I'm always interested in. You know, he really has like really thoroughly explained opinions on pretty much anything he covers, and he's like so incisively smart. And
How do you think he got that smart?
I think
What's his secret?
I think he just went to a lot of college. I think
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think he I want to say he has a doctorate or something. I don't remember.
I think he eats the brains of smarter people. And then
That's right.
He's a doctorate in brain eating.
Yeah, that's right.
James Smith says, hey, handsome, all fresh. Jeffem and V-Squeeze.
Okay.
Anyways.
That's new. It's a new one.
James says, who was your dream interview?
I mean, should be pretty obvious. I think, Hanson, you can guess this.
Hang on.
Suda51.
No, I've already interviewed him.
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
Not the real one.
What? Oh, my God.
You got 52. I can guess this?
Yes.
Your dream interview. It's, hang on, video games?
Yes.
Damn it. I mean,
Shinji Mikami.
No.
It's not Miyamoto?
No.
Why would I be able to guess this?
I think you know this one.
What is this freaking me out? Dan Hauser.
No. Think about stuff specific to me.
Suda51.
Other things specific to me.
A Dota god of some
Oh,
kind?
Gabe Newell.
No, close.
Close. Who else is?
Gabe.
Oh, Ice Frog.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense.
I think that would be the interview also that I would be the most nervous about, because if I have to imagine that anything would be like, here's a covert thing, maybe they put a screen on where I can't see them.
Right.
But like the weight of like being I assume that like being one of the few people to be able to ask him stuff, just like where do I even start that interview? Like what do people want to know most?
Who are you?
Yeah, exactly.
What's your deal?
Yeah.
And I'm out. I'll take my answers off the air, Ice Frog. What if they said, all right, we'll let you interview Ice Frog, but we can't let you know who he is, so we're going to splash acid in your eyes beforehand.
Yeah, and that's the most practical way to do that, too. Can't just have you facing away. It's got to be acid in the eyes.
In the video game arena, I've been very lucky in a Game Informer. It's like I interviewed or spoke to every developer I wanted to. It's really insane going through that archive. But I would love to talk to the creators of Sunset Riders. Like, that game's development is still such a weird mystery to me. And I'd love to sit down with those old Konami old timers. That's one that was always a little bit too distant. But
yeah.
And then probably Spielberg or something. Anyways,
okay, excuse me, sir.
Go ahead, Princess.
No, I think I talked to a lot. I don't have many video game people left, but outside of video games, Banksy. Wouldn't that be a cool interview?
I don't think that would be cool at all.
Why would that not be?
I don't know.
Because then then you'd know his identity though, and you could ransom it against him.
Oh, and then that is kind of a little bit of an art piece in and of itself,
Yeah,
isn't it?
You just tell him at the end. He'd be like, "This is illegal. I'm going to sue you." You'd be like, "No, dude, it's art. Gotcha."
And he's like, I can't do it because it's art.
Yep.
And I love
He'd
art.
just clap. And be like,
That's his voice.
well
too.
played, sir.
I'll be over here.
Anyways,
Check out the stencil I made.
Charles Davis says, hey, Max and Minions, life is effing weird sometimes. Has anything ever happened to you that you could not and cannot explain? I love this question, Charles Davis. And this is a great prompt too. Please, everybody write in with stuff that has happened in your life that you cannot explain.
Like supernatural?
Supernatural, coincidences, stuff like that. Like, there's just stupid stuff from my history where I remember playing around in probably middle school or high school, and my friend was like throwing weapons at me while I was on the four-wheeler going by. This is the most boring example of this. And I remember seeing him with an arrow from a bow and arrow, and he snapped it in half. And we only had one arrow. And then I whipped around on the four-wheeler and came back, and the arrow was back together, and it was like a whole arrow. And he was very coy the entire time. He's like, I'm not going to tell you how I did it. I'm not going to tell you how I did it. And it is still boggling my mind about how this happened. Another thing from my past, which is just to get the ball rolling. This is so small, but very specific. Friend of mine, his mom was married to his dad. His dad's name was Kim Marshall, and then their last name, right? Weird combination of names for a father, Kim Marshall. His parents got divorced. His mom then started dating a guy whose name was Marshall Kim, and then his last name. Is that not the strangest thing?
She set that up, right?
She scoured the globe to
She
find.
was like, I'm going to spite this guy.
Yeah,
Show me someone named Marshall Kim.
exactly.
My number one complaint about this guy's name
tracked
was that
him down.
I think it should be backwards.
She tracked him down. She killed his wife.
Yes.
And then married him.
And that's the weird
to
stuff.
spite him.
Please
That
write
is-
in
that
with
is
the
kind of
weirdest
weird
stuff.
coincidence.
Anyways,
Jesus, can you believe this guy? It's like we're not even at the table.
just jump in, you dingleberry.
When I was at the state fair as a kid, I can't probably like 6 years old.
The
maybe?
Minnesota State Fair.
Yes, there was
Place to be.
There was a stroller on the sidewalk as we were walking by. There was some kind of like stuffed animal in it, and for some reason I don't know why, I went up to that stuffed animal and I punched it right in the stomach as hard as I could. I don't know what it did, but it talked back to me and it said, "Hey, don't punch me." And
Shut
it
up.
blew my mind. No, and
What are you talking about?
that's what happened. And I remember looking around and my parents were like, "That's weird." And that is the memory that I've had for the past 30 years. And even when I bring it up, like I know that there must have been some other stranger around at the time who must have seen it.
Yeah.
And maybe he was a ventriloquist. I don't know how he made it come from the stuffed animal that I punched. But anytime I bring it up with like my older brother or my parents, they're like, "Yeah, I remember that. That was weird." I don't know if they know what happened and they're still just fooling me with it, but it's been unexplained ever since. And that's why I don't punch stuffed animals anymore when I see them.
I think you misheard it. Or it was somebody else saying it, and then you told your parents that's what happened, and they believed.
No, they were there with me at the time.
Yeah, but maybe they didn't hear it, and they're just nodding along.
No.
I think where you kind of buried the lead. I'm more confused about you saw a stroller and you went up and just punched the thing in it as hard as you could.
And I don't know why. I can't remember that part of it. I just remember that I
the
punched
hell?
it really hard, and then it said, "Hey, don't punch me."
And I want to kill you.
Another time when we were kids, we had a Ouija board,
Yes.
and we put out the Ouija board. We were doing all the Ouija. We were all very weirded out by why it was moving because we were all barely touching it. And we asked it, we couldn't come up with a question. We wanted it to be a hard one, right? And so we asked, what is the birthday of our mom's friend, like one of her random friends?
Yeah.
And it spelled out the birthday. And then when we went and asked, that was actually her birthday.
And you didn't, nobody at that table knew?
And it was correct, yes. And I don't know how any of us...
But you don't believe in Ouija boards, right?
No, of course not. But this is another thing where either my brother may be playing like the longest con of
Yes.
like 25 years because I still bring it up. And he's like, "Yeah, that's weird. I didn't know it either."
Your entire family's just
And
effing with you?
he seems very sincere about it.
Right.
But that's the only explanation I would have. Mm-hmm. Because my younger sister's younger than me, so she didn't set it up. I was like 6
Right.
at the time, so it would have to be him. But he was only a couple years older than me anyway, so
Freak out,
It
dude.
must be spirits.
Spirits.
My mom's friend was dead at the time too, as well. I should have mentioned that.
Oh, she was dead the whole
really?
time?
Yes. So
Oh my God.
Wow.
I think we'll have
ghost,
to
man.
take out a Ouija board now and figure out
my
what's going on.
wife is actually, she's very superstitious about stuff, and I
Yeah.
told her that story, and she is not happy that I was playing with a Ouija board. and it's still in my basement, and she's like, "You have to get rid of that."
I
I'm like,
love
I
that.
don't
That's
want it in
so
the house.
Sweet.
Yes.
I don't want. I remember I was very scared using a Ouija board up at my haunted cabin or whatever, and I was terrified. But my friend Ben was playing with us, and I remember he goes, "Oh, the spirits of Milton Bradley." It's
Yes.
like lame.
Yes,
It's like-
that is the lamest part of it, and people still get spooked out about it, and they
Yeah.
still make movies about it. It's like,
yeah.
Every once in a really long while, I'll have like really vivid deja vu.
Yeah.
Where it feels like, I swear to God, this is I have, and it's specifically because I feel like I've dreamt this exact thing of this exact series of events has happened to me. I don't know if it like how that's possible, but it's like I swear when it happens, I'm like, I swear to you, I have experienced this before.
And do you all
I-
feel deja vu? That feeling of like, it hits you so hard. I've even had it like podcasting and stuff, which is bizarre. And then it just like slowly fades away. But I always feel like, oh, if I kept leaping from lily pad to lily pad, I could keep this rolling forever. But eventually, my memory is jumping off into a different course from what I did the last time I did this, but I know it's all just brain chemistry.
Yeah, and like the awareness that it's deja vu is also kind of built into it, where it's, I've had this experience. This is deja vu. It's going on. When I had it last time, it was also deja vu. Like that's built into
how did we deal with deja vu before the French and before they like came up with that term? Like for everybody else, was it just like, oh, I'm a Messiah.
my head is exploding.
Like, how else would you deal with that?
Yeah, we just called them witches at that point.
I think so. By the way, good news, Jeff. Twitter.com/strollerpuncher is wide open if you want to.
There we go.
Claim that. Anyways, please write in with your weird stuff. Tim Laro says, which is better? And he says this, which is better, traveling the country or traveling the world? First instinct is, the world. But there's something sweet about getting to know the good old US of A or wherever you're from out there. I love traveling the country.
Yeah, I would say are you assuming that you're going on a road trip for that?
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that's part of the fun of being able to do it in country is
of course.
Is the journey there as well.
We're sitting on a plane.
Yeah.
Planes just Kentucky Route Zero. What are you gonna do?
You're getting coronavirus. You can't go to PAX anymore. It's just...
It's true.
But then also world, I mean...
So if you had to choose, though?
I guess I would choose world.
I would also choose world.
God.
Because then it's... You're getting to exposed to such different cultures, which I think is part of my favorite.
Yes, but as somebody who loves a deep dive, there's something kind of fun about going to a part of the States in particular that you've never been to before. And it's like, oh, now I have this microscopic zoom and I understand this aspect of our society a little bit better compared to going to Japan. It's amazing, but at the same time, it's like I feel like I'm still 30,000-foot view of what is happening in this society.
I can see that too.
Which, by the way, I was thinking about with your trip too, Suriel. It's a nice reminder for folks that if you have a little bit of cash, I understand it's tricky, but if you save up a little bit of cash, you can go to Japan and you probably should go to Japan.
Yeah.
I argue with my friends all the time about this, where my argument is always, so what are you going to do? Just die never having gone to Japan? That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
If you like video games, I know it's dumb, but like, I feel like you have a real connection to Japan. Like you should go and experience it and try and wrap your mind around it. It's the most interesting place on earth.
And the two things I would recommend if you're looking for cheap travel is to subscribe to Scott's Cheap Flights, which is like this newsletter that will just tell you like, hey, there's trips to this place for like $200 or whatever. Because that's how I got the tickets for Japan for like $650 or something.
Really?
Which is ridiculously cheap.
Wow.
And then also just like every once in a while, like go to like Google Flights and they have like this whole price graph about when you want to go, when the best. So if it's like if you want to go at a specific time, you can check out like the table of like, oh, if I went at the end of this month, it'd be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, Scott's Cheap Flights was the name of that one.
Yeah, and that gets back into our conversation last episode, I think, about not putting stuff off until you're too damn old to actually enjoy it. Like, don't be afraid of that. And specifically with Japan, I think when it comes to Asian countries, I think people are more scared to do traveling just because of the language barrier, especially. But with Japan, everyone is so nice.
If you're going to Tokyo in particular, you're fine.
Yes.
You're honestly fine. It'll be a fun challenge every once in a while, but you're set.
Yeah, and when I was there were times my whole stupid family came over when I was living there, and I was the tour guide there.
Did your mom's friend come?
Yes.
Okay.
In Spirit.
Right. Spirit Airlines? Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Yes, but there were plenty of times where I was completely lost. I had no idea. And it turns out if you're a white person and you're standing on a street corner looking confused, Japanese people will just come up and ask you where you're trying to get to, and they will. There was a time during that trip where some Japanese businessman on his way home saw that we were lost, realized that the restaurant that we wanted to go to was going to be too hard for him to explain to us. So he just walked us like 10 blocks to get us to the restaurant and then turned around and walked back in the opposite direction because it was not on his way home. But it was just that nice, it is built into the culture to be helpful. And if there are people who are lost or need your help, like everyone has to try and help.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised at the amount of English that people in Japan specifically know.
Look for somebody younger and you'll be okay. Did you have a culture shock coming back, Suriel? It's always like the airport for me where it's like, oh, good God. People are rude outside of Japan.
Like, I mean, a simple thing like, in Japan, they've kind of like normalized the idea of like if you're on an escalator, then everyone stands on one side and then people walk up the other side. So it's just a lot more orderly. So if you're in a hurry, you can just walk by everyone. And then just being back in the U.S., everyone's just kind of like all over the place. And it's like, oh, it would have been nice to actually, if this were in any way orderly.
Oh, so you're the rude one, and you were yelling at them on the escalator
That's right.
once
I
you got
was
back
forced to
to
yell
America?
at them saying, why aren't you like this?
Go to Japan, you cowards. Andrew Baker says, hey, MinnMaxers, I currently got Soul Calibur 6 a couple days ago and playing through the Libra of Souls campaign. It is such a slog. With NetherRealm consistently knocking out fighting game campaigns out of the park, I feel like getting great reception for them. Why don't more fighting games follow suit in this formula? I would love a story mode in the vein of Mortal Kombat and Injustice, but in the Street Fighter or Soul Calibur universe. Why don't they do it?
I mean, they've kind of tried over the years. Like Street Fighter V had its version of that, and it was not good. I think those story modes in the NetherRealm games are as good as they are. I think because they've invested a ton of resources into them at this point. They have their whole motion capture studio. They have dedicated story like people there, like which is not a thing that a lot of other studios at other fighting game studios have. And for what it's worth, I actually did kind of like that Libra of Souls mode because it did something that the NetherRealm games never really do, which is actually gamify the fighting game parts of it. Because as fun as they are, like those you're watching cutscenes and then the fights in there are kind of like whatever. And so instead, I think what I would like to do is for someone to turn a fighting game into another kind of game where there's progression, where there are other loops there. But I think to answer their question, I think it takes a lot more resources than you think to do that. And I think most studios would rather, with the limited budget that they have, invest in making the fighting game part of it better. Yeah,
and you look at the success sales-wise for Mortal Kombat games versus the last several Soul Calibur games. I mean, they have much more of a budget to work with, and NetherRealm has so many years of experience doing that at this point.
But are they that popular because they do have this single-player aspect that can draw
That's
more
why
people?
It is a cycle that feeds into itself. But for a long time, the story modes in those games weren't good, right? It wasn't until even the PS2 era, I think, that they started investing in let's have a bunch of single-player stuff for them to do, and eventually it just became those story modes. But for a while, they were for a long time kind of experimenting with ways to have single players have fun with those games.
Yeah. Marquis J. Gaston, hey, speaking of deja vu, says, hey, what genre will be the first viral hit from Dreams?
Copyright infringement.
It is getting wild. It's very fun to see a lot more people playing Dreams and seeing the weird stuff in there, but it is that reminder of now that it's in the public, everybody's sharing it. It's shut up! Don't talk about it too loud, or Disney will crack down on this thing. Popular. Yeah. Did you see the Fallout 4?
Yeah.
Have you played it yet?
No.
We should maybe check that out in a video because it seems very cool. I don't know. I know that the creative director Mark Healy for Dreams, that he wanted new genres to be invented in Dreams, which is he's a little bit of a hippy dippy. It'd be awesome to see it, and I'd love to see something auto chess bubble out of Dreams. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be kind of 3D platformers, which is the kind of thing that we saw in the arts campaign. At least those portions of it.
Musicals?
Yeah, the musicals. Okay. But what I would like to see is competitive, couch multiplayer kind of competitive games, because like Hyperdot, it can be very simple, but it is still very fun when you play those kind of experiences with your friends.
Yeah.
So please make those.
There we go. Justin Ray says, hey, MinnMaxers, I hope Jeffum is having a wonderful day.
Okay. I am. Thank you.
He says, hey, on the MinnMax show and back on Game Informer, you guys will regularly bring up how Dreams is a wonderful hub of weird games and creativity. I wanted to point out that this kind of experience still exists on PC with the website Itch.io. Itch.io. It is a platform for indie developers to load their games onto for free. My friends and I have put out 3 free games under the name Digital Daydream, but you can find tons of free games made with all different engines and many are playable completely free online. So if anyone is interested in being able to play a variety of small to big experiences and not worry about viruses, they could also check out Itch.io.
Yeah.
Nice plug.
That is a great point. And when we were talking about that last time and I brought up that it's this Shangri-La where you don't have to worry about that was one of the things that I thought in my mind, but forgot to bring up.
There we go.
Oh, yeah. Itch.io is
Justin's got your back.
People are doing that.
Another Justin Swart, says, hey, Ben and the CLCs, taking a classic game and giving it a modern remake is all the rage these days. Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Final Fantasy 7. To flip this notion on its head, what's a modern game or series you would like to get a 16-bit treatment? A D-Master.
I'm going to be an asshat and say Metroid.
What, the last Metroid 2 didn't do it for you?
No, I want beautiful, nicely animated 16-bit graphic
You want
version of
sprites?
that. Yes, I want sprites.
What was the last sprite game that Nintendo developed? I know that's poorly stated, but last like sprite assets, not including like some spirits in Smash or something, but like sprite assets.
Full game.
I guess.
Yeah.
Got to be something on the eShop, right?
Yeah, I would imagine. Maybe some of the stuff in... Was there anything in Game & Wario that was heavily sprite-based?
I was thinking Wario 2,
I think
kind of.
WarioWare is probably the answer, is some micro game in there, because those, it has to be that, right? But outside of WarioWare, let's say, what else is there? Let us know. Also, the talking about 7 and remake and all this stuff, somebody in the YouTube channel comments pointed out something that I thought was very interesting, and I don't know if it got a lot of play on the internet, but in the latest trailer for the opening of the Final Fantasy VII remake, in the official version from Final Fantasy on YouTube, in the description, they say exactly the scope of the first game, which they had never clarified before, that it is in fact just Midgar, which we'd speculated a lot, but like they just lay it all out there. It's like, oh, geez, there it is. All right, cool. Let's see. Joseph Walters says, who owns the right to I can get used to this? Technically, we stole that from Bob Odenkirk on Comedy Bang Bang, so I'm going to go with Comedy Bang Bang. But if you want to find out, Joseph, maybe you should come to VGM Con on March 7th at 9 p.m. Evan McHugh says, I recently moved into an apartment with a backyard, and playing Switch in a lawn chair is way more satisfying than it should be. My friend and I were reminiscing about running an extension cord out of a tent and setting up an Xbox and playing Halo in the great outdoors. Why does playing video games outside feel so magical?
It's because you're outdoors, and being outdoors feels good, I think.
But it also feels a little bit like it's a fun contrast. It feels kind of naughty, like, ooh, I shouldn't be here
Yeah, it
with
feels
this.
like forbidden fruit, like I shouldn't
That's
be able
right.
to do this.
I shouldn't be
but
able to get a tan while being lazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess that's part of the tanning part, but I guess playing video games specifically then, right? It does feel good though, doesn't it?
I think that's just the vitamin D, though, that you're absorbing when
What
you're
is
out
this?
there. Yeah.
Vitamin D? I've blocked all the windows.
Well, yeah, but even if you're like camping, if you happen to set it up inside a tent, and I think that's part of the appeal is like, you know, portable systems notwithstanding, like having to figure out how am I going to set up an Xbox here?
Yeah.
Like, do I have to get like a battery or something? Or like, how do I set it up? I think is part of it. It's like, oh, I did this myself.
A life hack. Yeah.
That's right. Suriel, what do you know of camping? I've seen your Min Snacks episodes. I know you ain't no camper.
I'm not a camper.
You want to go camping this summer, though?
Maybe.
There it is.
I guess in the 6 weeks in Minnesota that we have to go camping.
Okay, buddy. Get out of here. Jared Baybout says, over the last month, after completing Trails of Cold Steel 3, seriously, you guys should play that series. I know, there's just too much at this point. I've started the process of learning Japanese so I can play more JRPGs that are not localized to the West or the wait is too long. I'm looking at you, Yakuza 7. So with the idea of making yourself better, have any of you learned a new skill or done anything to better yourself for a form of entertainment?
I learned a skill through playing games, not in order to be better at video games, but the first example that came to my mind was puzzle games that use programming in them, that teach you programming concept.
Sure.
I played a bunch of those. I did an article about it at Game Informer when I was checking them out. And some of them are it's kind of simple concepts, but some of them actually delve much more into that aspect.
Did you get into, I would love to, speaking of interviews we want, I never talked to the World of Goo folks, but that studio, what is it, the Tomorrow Corporation? They definitely got into those. Did you play their games that are all about programming and stuff?
I can't remember what it's called, but it is a good example of that.
Yeah.
There
it is. Look it up. We can look it up while we're pondering this next one from Neil Smith, who says, hey, physics defines the multiple world theory or multiverse theory as an infinite number of parallel universes which contain within them all possible outcomes of quantum interactions. Essentially, for every decision you make that boils down to quantum variations or chemical reactions inside our brains, leading to one outcome or another, there exists a universe or multiple universes where you made every possible outcome in those universes. So out there in the universe, which contains every possible version of ourselves, I ask you, does there exist a universe where Ben Hansen passionately defends Pop-Tarts against toaster strudels? No, there is not.
That's just a void where that realm would go.
That's right. Yeah, I removed it from existence. See, the thing for this, do you need this? I'm still confused about physics in this way. Like, do you need the multiverse to have the every variation of everything here, Neil? Because isn't the core idea is our universe is infinite, so there's no reason that a Ben Hansen who prefers Pop-Tarts over toaster strudels does not exist within our universe?
On like some other planet somewhere.
Yeah. And there's also one where it's Ben Hansen, but he has 3 eyes. Yeah. If it's infinite, then it's every variation.
No, because I think you do, because I think it implies that I think the multiverse implies that there is in this situation, there is a version of you that exists on the planet Earth that, where most of history has gone the same way, except for you like Pop-Tarts.
But I'm saying that can exist within our universe still. You don't need the multiple universes.
It wouldn't be this place within the universe.
Not in these coordinates. Because then that universe implies that you could go visit that version of yourself simply by moving, in a direction, whereas this would
So it wouldn't be the exact copy.
Right. Yeah. So instead, it's just...
But effectively the same point.
Right.
So effectively, I'm right. Okay.
There's a universe where
you're right. There's a universe where you're right. Correct.
Yes. Human Resource Machine.
Yes.
Is that the game you're thinking of? The Tomorrow Corporation game?
Yeah.
And 7 Billion Humans. They released in 2018. I think I started
I didn't see that one.
They're an interesting company. Anyways, Jesse James says, hey, M&Ms, hello. Oh, did you hear this, by the way? For the rest of your life, you have to choose between only being able to play games that have already been released or are going to be released that came out after today. Which do you choose?
So... in the latter version, I would never be able to replay anything, right? I could only play games I have never played before.
Correct.
Do I get more than one session? Do I like if I play through Cyberpunk and let's say I'm done, I can never play Cyberpunk again?
It's just today's the dividing line. So you can replay stuff in the future. You know what I mean? You can play Cyberpunk several times.
So starting today, I would not be able to play anything that's been released in the past, but I could play anything for an infinite number of times.
That's right.
Yes.
But it has to have come out
Everything
from
in the future.
Choose it. Hotshot. I go future.
Future.
I
Absolutely.
think I'd go future, yeah.
Keep plowing ahead.
But they're also just going to keep remaking the old games too and re-releasing them.
Very shrewd. There we go. Tom Blackburn says, hey, I just got a second new dog and can't help feel overwhelmed by how much better he is making me feel about myself as a person. He's a sloppy beast in comparison. He says, anyone with anxiety about bringing kids into the world and the huge financial and temporal burden it can be should think about getting a dog first for your health. It's a very interesting strategy. I don't want a dog. I'm allergic to everything, but I do want kids. So I'm just going to make that leap.
You're a kid.
Yeah, I've thought about...
Go to the kid pound and get a kid.
I thought about that as well, but my worry is that sometimes dogs don't transition well to having when all of a sudden this new needy being shows up into the family that he's already been in.
Right.
So I would rather have the baby, then bring a dog into it. The dog then knows what to expect. It knows what it's getting out of it, and then the baby can adjust.
Right.
That now we're paying all attention to this cool, awesome puppy.
But you don't get the stepping stone of family building, right?
Yeah. In which case, carry around an egg. I think that's what they do in school, right?
Yeah.
Take care of the egg.
Right.
And put it in a cup of vinegar, and then...
Yeah. There's a tweet the reference. Look, you understand if you watch Just Play Sonic.
But also just get a dog, because they're great, and they do make you feel better. And that's another brain chemistry thing. Scientists have figured this out, that just having a dog and petting it and stuff releases endorphins and all those kind of good things. They're man's best friend.
That's true.
It doesn't work with cats.
No.
So just kick those things out.
They should
You
all be
don't
destroyed.
want one of those.
Right.
Just go with the dog.
I had this thought the other day. Tell me if I'm insane. I was like, man, what if I have kids and one of them really wants a dog? And then I realized, oh, well, that'll be fun because I can just like pretend to be a dog and that'd be like a fun playtime thing. And it'd probably be funnier for the kid too.
No, you're going to screw your
Depends
dog
on the
up.
age. Like there's a very slim period of time where that works, I think.
What are you talking about? Pretending to be a dog is funny from age 1 to 9.
Well,
You're
at some
gonna
point they're
mess
just going to be
your
like,
kid
Dad,
up.
you can't just keep pretending that you're a dog every time I ask to get a dog.
They're gonna
At
be
some
going
point,
to
I
their
just want a dog.
therapist.
I need help with my homework, Father. Yeah. Anyways, it'll be fun.
Also, you guys played Sonic Adventure?
Oh yeah, we played Sonic Adventure 2
Really?
because we got our ass kicked in Tarkov, and then I found out that game was on Steam. Are you a big Sonic Adventure 2 fan?
Yeah, I think.
What?
Yeah, I think very few people have spent more time with that game than me and my brother.
What are you
we
talking
blew
about?
that.
Are you serious?
We ended up A ranking every mission in that game and got the Easter egg where you play the first level of.
I am
Sonic
sorry
Adventure.
we did that without you. It was a random choice.
I raised the shit out of some chow.
But the Dr. Robotnik's beeping when he shoots still drives you crazy, right?
Oh
you
no, I
remember
love
the
that sound.
sound?
I love the res-like mechanic of like just running through a level and just like highlighting everything and then firing all your blasters at them.
But the piercing audio noise
It
that
really
makes
sucks.
you deaf.
maybe I had
It
modern
was just a
TVs
terrible,
is
objectively terrible idea, right?
Oh my god.
I never really noticed it.
That's so absurd. So many people love that game. I was amazed that everyone in the chat's like, I have this game memorized. It's
Yeah,
my
that's-
favorite game.
I felt bad
Oh yeah. Yeah, you should.
because I did not want to dump on that, and everyone should enjoy the games that they like, and don't let people talk you out of something that you like.
There
So,
we go. Amir,
Also,
yes.
Pal, they have dogs that are hypoallergenic, right? Like,
Yeah, but they're really expensive.
are they?
Yeah, they're
Are they
like
that much
thousands of
more?
dollars and stuff. Hey, internet, tell us about the cheapest hypoallergenic dog, please.
Yes.
Also, it doesn't necessarily have to be a dog. You can get like some sort of non-traditional. You can get like like a lizard or something, right?
Oh, maybe I could.
Yeah,
If,
feed your baby to a snake.
honestly,
Yeah.
I do. I had a lot of lizards growing up. Like,
Yeah.
I love.
Get
Lizards.
like 4 more, man. I don't know.
Okay.
Who's gonna
Or
stop
if
you?
I want a dog, maybe I could ask my dad to pretend to be a little dog.
That explains so much.
Anyways, Amir Rez says, if you had the ability to erase something from your fellow MinnMaxers' memories to make their lives miserable, what would that thing be and how would they react?
Yeah.
Probably language.
Just language?
skills? Yeah.
So they'd just be like, I have no mouth and I must scream type of
yeah.
stuff?
So they wouldn't be able to communicate. And
They couldn't
learn-
even talk like Ayla and Chrono Trigger. It's just like,
Probably not.
I mean,
if
probably
they just,
not.
a-
But they could relearn
any
it.
semblance of language function, I think, would just like try learning a language when you don't understand any of it. You know, like it'd be impossible to communicate.
I mean, that's what babies do, though, Suriel.
yeah.
But eventually they grow out of it. It's a temporary
But
state.
that's
not-
because they learn it.
yeah, but it's
grow
harder.
out of
It would
it.
be harder to
We're
learn
just
it.
erasing like memories
Yeah.
here, right? So they can make new memories.
Right, but it
you're
would
not
be-
causing permanent brain damage.
Right, but
to
like
us.
when you're a baby, your brain is way more elastic, or like it's easier to learn things when you're a baby than it is now. Like if you had to relearn the English
try
language
teaching
now,
a baby quantum physics, Suriel.
Yeah, Suriel. Call us when you've done
right?
that.
I'll erase the part of your brain that understands quantum physics completely.
I think I would erase your knowledge of using a toilet.
I had a better answer
Please.
than that, sir.
Please.
I would erase the memory that you have to take your pants off before you poop. And then the outcome of that would be you would poop your pants. You would sit down on the toilet,
Yeah,
but then just
who's
poop
the
your
joke
pants.
on? Because I'm going to be sitting down here podcasting with you all the time, and I'm just going to be covered in my own feces.
I mean, it's still funny though.
But then-
I can buy nose
But wait,
plugs.
so I feel like you would just poop your pants the one time and then learn like, oh, I should take these off before you.
But it's super funny when it happens. It's
let's
worth
see.
it.
I'd wait until Suriel is halfway done driving home, and then I'd erase all his memory of how to drive a car while he's on the highway. Wouldn't that be a hoot?
Yeah, I think I'd have a lot of fun doing that. Like, oh gosh, I crashed.
What is this big metal tube? Zane Dukes says, yo, CLCs. Y'all continually praise the MinnMax community for being the nicest place on earth, correct? On the internet specifically. What is it about our community that makes us not as awful as the rest of the internet? You tell us. Why is the video game community in general so awful? Big question.
Yeah.
I think it's largely the internet, but we're so zoomed in on game stuff. That
it is absolutely the internet.
Yeah.
You go to any comments on YouTube, whatever the subject is, and it's something about being anonymous and being able to interact with people without any consequences, I think turns people into terrible human beings.
I would have been a really crappy 11-year-old on the internet for sure. Just starved for attention. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think the gaming, I think that when it comes particularly to gaming, I think it's because games constantly demand your loyalty in a way that other mediums don't. So what does that mean? If you think about the number of hours you have to invest to finish a game, or even with live service games, the number of hours you have to invest to get good, I think there's this inherent this is worth it because I've spent so much time with it. And so I think the thing that irks people off about games is when they see people who are kind of dismissing something that they like without having given it the quote unquote proper amount of time. So if someone posts a video of hey, this is my first time playing, WoW or Dota or something like that, and people are oh, you don't know what you're doing, and people obviously make fun of them for not knowing what they're doing.
Jeff, I'm trying to play Sonic Adventure 2.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's there are people who may have finished every level and gotten an A rank who are this person is a complete idiot, right? And that is 100% what I'm talking about, is that people get frustrated when they see people who don't know as much as they do about something, when they're kind of, and then for them to give their opinions and for them to have a platform about that stuff, that's maybe when it gets really frustrating for people, and that's when they kind of leave YouTube comments,
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right.
Not that it's particular. I'm sure regular YouTube people or people who follow YouTubers have some version of that. But I think that is maybe the specific, the strain of that kind of vitriol that is specific to games.
Yeah. There are also a lot of them, and especially older games, were competitive as well. And I think that anytime you have competition, when you look at, parents of kids who are playing sports just turn into monsters as well, I think that already starts to bring out some baser instincts when we interact with one another. And also, let's be real, a lot of games are violent as well. They're about murdering each other. So competitive, murdering, anonymous stew that we have, probably not good. What are we doing, guys?
Oh, no, we founded our
But
Patreon.
the MinnMax community.
The best. Shangri-La in the Discord. It's the best. All right, here's a weird one to end things on. Bentrick Bryant says, hello, cohorts. I have a game for you. It could be much fun, but maybe it's poo. I've devised a series of 4-line rhymes. Just buzz in with your name and say the last thing. Ready?
Wait, that didn't rhyme.
Wait, what?
Well, I think he did, but look, I'm
It was a sample one because I'm not sure entirely.
All right,
how
the
this
sample
works.
one is the first one. Ready? Hey, here we go. These people make games that are all full of adventure. To finish each one, you must be sharp as a razor. 2-player prod makes it fun to see how they're made. The most candid boss really must be.
What the hell is going on right now?
Say the name of the boss of that studio. That's Tim Schafer, everybody.
What?
Okay.
What were the clues in there?
Look, moving on. Okay, here we go. Again, I'm surprised. Didn't know Layden retired. My current console of choice feels to me like pure Zion. I do wish more of their games would come to PC, though. I'll just look to the horizon and plead with
Guerrilla Games.
Jim Ryan. All right, look, you're too smart for us, Fentrick. You're way too smart. Okay.
Are there more?
Okay, yeah.
I feel like this is just.
Okay,
I
hey.
think the audio portion of this is.
Here we go.
Okay.
Just
Prolific
go for it.
as ever, these people seem crazy. Buying up other studios like some crazy game dispenser. I don't get their strat, but they'll show me I'm wrong. Do I need an Xbox? Please tell me.
Phil Spencer.
There we go. We got it, Patrick. That's hard. Okay, thanks to everybody that wrote in, left something in the Minnbox over there on patreon.com/MinnMax2Ns. Again, next week, please let us know weird stuff that's happened in your life.
Yes.
And I don't want too many deja vu stories. I don't want any deja vu stories. Give us weird coincidences. That's the best.
It's got to
right?
be freaky.
Freaky
We got to
or
get goosebumps from it.
Give us goosebumps. If you're watching this on YouTube, we had to add this after the fact, as you can tell, but for the audio listeners, it'll be seamless. So it's our little joke. And, of course, the I Am 8-Bit question of the week goes to Charles Davis for that question about weird stuff that's happened to us. So congratulations. I will reach out to you and get your address, and then I Am 8-Bit will ship out that Old Man's Journey vinyl soundtrack. Thank you so much, Charles. I think it's a little time for something called Get a Load of This.
All right. Well, I wasn't as prepared as I usually am, but get a load of this.
Yeah.
There's this Twitter account that
Did you just mutter not that hard?
That recently got super popular called, I want to say it's called Science Diagrams That Look Like S Posts. And you can sort of say what the S stands there for.
I see.
And so what it is, it's just, it'll post images from like science textbooks and things like that that are meant to be funny and just kind of stand out for being really kind of weird. So like one of their posts was like, they have a photo of an egg that just says like, egg, one of the more popular forms of child to eat. So it'll have that, and then it's just a lot of weird diagrams. The visual portion of this is kind of important, but there's like they'll have like here's 1 point like Unit 1.1 Introduction Thermodynamics and Statistical Mechanics of the Perfect Gas. So they'll start that section by saying Ludwig Boltzmann, who spent much of his life studying statistical mechanics, died in 1906 by his own hand. Paul Ehrenfest, carrying on the work, died similarly in 1933. Now it is our turn to study statistical mechanics.
So it's textbook writers just having fun.
Right.
Right.
So they'll just have like
Yeah.
And
Hey.
it's a fun account to follow. They put regular people feet on a wildebeest in one of these textbooks just to show you how big their feet normally are. And so they just swap them out for human feet to show you how weird it is.
That's good.
But fun account to follow.
Hey, that's
That's
good.
good.
Jeff,
Hey, get a load of this. If you've got some free time and you want to have a laugh, go to YouTube and look up Steve Harvey Family Feud.
just compilations.
Yes. YouTube is a treasure trove of Steve Harvey Family Feud compilations, and then also like his talk show that he does for like white middle-aged women.
That's right.
I don't know why that's so popular, but the Family Feud ones especially, it was a stroke of genius to hire a
because he's the
stand-up
best
comedian.
reaction.
Yes, a stand-up comedian of Steve Harvey's caliber to do that show, because it is just a ton of people giving bad answers, which you can't help when you're on Family Feud because it's timed and you have to give the first response that comes into your brain. But then you have to suffer Steve Harvey just making a total fool of you and just hamming it up for like 5 minutes afterwards. And the compilations are super hilarious of him
What a
doing
great
that.
suggestion. Who can be in a bad mood watching somebody blow it on Family Feud and be like,
You can't.
Hanky panky.
Yes, and when people say a clue that's already up on the board, like he just lays into them for minutes. I don't even know how they finish the show on time because he's making so much fun of them.
That's great.
So
That's great.
get a load of that.
Love it. Hey, get a load of this. Andy Bao on Twitter, Wax Pancake apparently, was live tweeting the end of HQ, the trivia app, which I really loved for a short time there from a couple years ago. The streaming trivia game, it shut down. And so Wax Pancake live tweeted it and says, the two hosts are doing a final HQ game and they're super drunk and swearing and talking about how the investors ran out of money and how they should have unionized. And the app is 5 seconds out of sync and glitching out. And every trivia question is about Taco Bell and it's great. 523 winners split a $5 prize. And then one of the hosts drunkenly sang memories from Cats while the other one tried not to throw up. What a glorious train wreck of an ending. And then Scott Rogowski, who's the original host of HQ, tweeted out saying, hey, HQ didn't die of natural causes. It was poisoned with a lethal cocktail of incompetence, arrogance, short-sightedness, and sociopathic delusion. Saddened to see it finally succumb. Sadder still for the good and talented staff abruptly left in the lurch after being gaslit and lied to.
Wow.
There is a saga in HQ. Somebody in the responded to this tweet being like, well, I hope they make a Netflix documentary about it. That would be the best way to consume the lifespan of HQ, because remember, like one of the co-founders died. Like it is a wild story of HQ's ride, and now it's officially ended. Their watch has ended. And speaking for Kyle Hilliard, I'll get a load of this, because Kyle tweeted at friend of the show, Brad Bird from Pixar, director of Incredibles. He tweeted to him this IMDb fact where it said that Brad Bird wrote a draft of Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. It's on IMDb. Must be true. And so Kyle tweeted at Brad Bird and said, is there any truth to the Sonic the Hedgehog IMDb movie trivia fact? And Brad Bird tweeted back at our boy Kyle Hilliard and said, get a haircut, you mangy mutt.
I will never talk to you again.
He said, no truth at all. 0% truth, 100% false. So they did that Brad Bird responded to Kyle Hilliard. That stuff still really tickles me pink, and I'm sure Kyle's still over the moon.
I also like that you wrote Bard Bird, which is kind of
Bird.
interesting.
Wait a minute.
I mean, that would be his
aren't all
Twitter.
birds bards, though,
That's
really?
true.
Hang on. We got it, you guys. Twitter.com/BardBird. Damn it, Warren Bard.
Warren
You took
Bard.
the Twitter
You
account.
got it.
Dang it. Anyways, thank you so much for everybody that wrote in. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the MinnMax Show. Next week, we'll have a lot more to talk about. And again, a reminder, VGM Con is going to be coming up March 7th, this Saturday at 9 p.m. We'll have trivia there if you're interested. We'd love to see you there. It's not the next community meetup, which, by the way, in the final stages of locking that down, but it's looking like it's going to be April, and it's going to be timed with our next charity drive, and it's going to be a very exciting and interesting one for folks. I can't wait to dive into that whole thing. But hey.
And MinnFax call-in?
MinnFax call-in on Sunday. Yes, let me know if you have any questions about that. But if you want to podcast with us and talk to us, hey, you can call in. Become a $20 supporter, even if it's just for 1 month. We're totally cool with that. But hey, until next time then, be good, have fun, let's go.